as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return.
To
the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The Ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegation of the $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out. The first tranche of it will be early next month.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. It's just fast approaching 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Hopefully you knew a lot of that already, which is why you're here. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, whether you're watching on YouTube or your connected device, thank you, as always, for taking the time to tune in. Always appreciate your company. As always, plenty to talk about. Just some breaking news, actually, regarding... the latest statement from Donald Trump, the US president, as if you didn't know who he was. But if you do miss anything of the show, don't forget to go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. You can hit subscribe. And you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this in the next 10-15 minutes or so, the Prime Minister is going to have a press conference at number 10. He's going to give an update on cost of living concerns amid the Iran war. Interestingly, of course, this is, as Donald Trump has said yesterday, well, you know, got a problem with the oil supplies from the Strait of Hormuz? As he said to Britain, France and everyone else, go and get your own oil. Thanks for that, Donald Trump. He's also just done an interview with The Telegraph they've just put out in the last 10 minutes or so, suggesting he wants to pull the US out of NATO. Look, something he's talked about many times before. He said in many a statement in recent weeks, Europe, we don't need your help, but you must help us. And if you don't, we're not there for you. And why are we in NATO? It's a one-way street. So we'll be discussing that a little bit later. Oh, yeah, along with the fact that the head of the British Navy has said that we're not ready for war. I mean, with all due respect, sir, you've got one job. You've literally got one job, to be ready for war. That's literally all your job is. But are we, well, hampering their ability to do that? We're going to be talking about the Prime Minister and whether or not he's using King Charles's state visit in a few weeks' time to the US in an attempt to woo Donald Trump after their war of words on social media yesterday. Going to talk about, yet again, we're paying more quid, an extra 2 million quid, by the way, to the French in a little 2-month extension for those pretend beach patrols between lunch breaks and taking August off that the French gendarmerie are supposed to be doing in terms of stopping those migrant boats. What on earth's going on at the BBC? Knew about these allegations that came to light this week about Scott Mills, their Radio 2 breakfast show, until last week, involving, now, as we found out on the show yesterday, a boy under 16 years old. I'd like to point out, allegations, no charges, no conviction. I really think we need to keep remembering that. But they knew about it a year ago and failed to act. But actually, it turns out they actually knew that he'd been questioned by the police 7 years ago, but then failed to investigate. We'll talk about all of that. And the small matter of JK doesn't approve, but JHB absolutely does. The Artemis II mission, which is going to launch this evening at about 11:30 this evening, assuming the weather's going to be okay and everything else goes fine. Man's first flight to the moon since 1972. They're not actually landing on the moon on this flight, but this is all a testing ground to realize a long-term project to go to Mars. I think this stuff is brilliant. We're going to be talking to our favourite space boffin, Andy Loud, about all of that coming up. Delighted to say, joining me today for all of the big stories is Claire Pearsall, former Conservative government advisor. Morning to you.
Morning.
It's recess for Easter, and
yes.
I mean, when isn't it recess for Parliament these days? I say any organisation or people who take more holidays than me, I've got some questions about. But so no PMQs today, but plenty to talk about, including this press conference from the Prime Minister we're expecting. As you know, I try not to take these things. I just want to take them live because I can't. I mean, I have to play a loud noise to wake everyone up afterwards. But we'll take the brief statement. We'll take the statement at the beginning. It was going to be 10. It's going to be 10:15. And we think this is going to be specifically about addressing the rising costs of the Iran war and what the government's going to do. We've already had Rachel Reeves saying, look, any issue, any help is going to be specifically aimed at people on benefits. We've got a lot of... So we had the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, out today. And again, they're all talking about, isn't it wonderful, minimum wage, living wage, both going up today. And, of course, we've got the Ofgem... cap is going to bring bills down a little bit, but we've also got council tax going up. We're paying more fuel duty because we're paying more for our fuel. Water bills going up, TV licences, mobile phone contracts, most people's rent, mortgages. Well, they ain't coming down because the interest rate's not going down because of all this. A lot of it outside the government's control. A lot of it within the government's control, when it's actually their policies that mean we're hit by the energy crisis more than pretty much any other Western country, and that's down to your lot, the Tories, as well, over the years, but also the taxes they put on everything.
Well, this is it. And the other one that's going up is car tax. So anybody that's got to tax their car, there's going to be an increase in that. Anybody that had an electric car is suddenly going to be paying an awful lot more.
Yeah, I know, but I think that's quite funny.
Well,
I was saying that's what's going to happen. Eventually, you're all going to get included too.
Nothing comes for free. But all of those things are going up, and those things are in the gift of the government. You could not increase those kind of taxes. I mean, council tax, I got my council tax bill come through. It is an enormous rise. It's 4%.
You've only got 4%. I think 5%. Well, so 4.99%.
Yeah,
it's 5%, right? It's 5% rise.
It's
That's about another 110 a year for people.
And you look at your monthly payments and you just think, what am I getting for this? Am I getting anything more?
I look at the potholes,
better?
I look at the bin collections,
Exactly.
I think, what am I actually getting for this? And well, again, we know lots of it's going on social services and paying for children whose parents claim they're disabled getting to school. I mean, that's where all the money's going.
But also for a police and crime commissioner, which I don't think should be a thing anyway, and the amount of my money that goes towards that, I want a refund. But this press conference will be interesting. Are there going to be any details that come out of it, or are these going to be nice words, we're sorry you're struggling? Kind of
well, that's it. Is there going to be any specific? Because we have plenty of things. I tell you what's really peeved me. I'm using that term. I think that's allowed. Really peeved me in the last few weeks is Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. They keep having meetings. They keep calling. So there's a Cobra meeting, and then they call an emergency meeting with. They had energy chiefs and logistics people. Then they had the banking and energy bosses yesterday. Today, Rachel Reeves has called in a load of the supermarket chiefs. So, sorry, there's no evidence whatsoever that supermarket bosses are price gouging. All these claims, absolutely, there's no evidence of this whatsoever. The profit margin in supermarkets is about 4%. I mean, I'm sorry, but can we stop? The competition is there, folks. There's an awful lot of stuff we buy, like milk, which is way below the cost of it, as many dairy farmer can testify. But they have another meeting. But what is amazing is they just demand, Come on, OK, you turn up. Yeah. Here's the thing, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. You know these people who actually run stuff, who have to make stuff happen so that there's stuff on the shelves of the Tesco on the day, and so there's fuel in the forecourt, and so things function. They've actually got stuff to do during the day. They don't just go from meeting to meeting and press conference to press conference. And literally, so half the supermarket bosses have actually said, sorry, we're too busy, we can't make it. And I love them for this. It's like, this is an utterly pointless time. We're just going to be sitting there with you wagging your finger telling us we need to do something when you have deliberately run energy policies and tax policies and your minimum wage and your this and your policy where you're literally strangling business in this country, and then you're saying, oh, can you help because prices have gone up. I mean, do one.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. These people are busy. They've got important jobs to be getting on with. They don't need to be going into number 11 to be lectured by someone who has absolutely no idea how a business runs.
And whose abacus has clearly been broken for quite some time.
I think she's quite broken, though, isn't she? She's got a new hairstyle, though, so...
She's had a... Do you know what? I mean, I'm in admiration of anyone who can have a new hairstyle. My head just sort of does this thing. I don't know. It makes a lot of people angry on the internet. Good Lord. It's amazing how many people get angered by my hair. I mean, I'm the one who has to live with it, guys. Get over it. But she has had... Sorry, girl moment. Yeah. She has had so many new hairstyles. I'm thinking they're thinking, this is the issue, Rach, yeah? This is the issue. It's not that you lied about your CV, you're useless at your job, you have no understanding of business or the economy whatsoever, and you're a terrible communicator. Not that, no. If we just change your hair so it's a bit less, Lego movie and a bit more feathery, then suddenly everyone will think you're good at your job. I don't think that's how it works.
No, she put a pair of specs on, said that she looked serious the other day in the comments, and you just thought, oh, no, that's not a look. You don't need those. You're not holding it well. But what are you going to say to supermarket bosses? Can you not make so much profit? And they're going to say, we aren't. So how are you solving this? And there's going to be absolutely nothing that comes out of it, just as the energy companies also said, no, love, sorry, you can't
tax them to the hilt. Tell them they can't go, they can't frack, they can't drill for oil and gas or any new licences in North Sea. And then go, right, what are you going to do to make sure we have energy independence? Hello?
Yes.
I mean, again, and it's not all on this lot. It's on your lot too, but this lot have put it on steroids.
Yeah, no, they absolutely have. And they're holding all of these really pointless round tables where nothing will come out of it. And you think, how many are going to turn up? I think the only thing going down is the attendance at them, because people are not going to go.
That's a bit of a giveaway. Donald Trump yesterday, he's taunting the Prime Minister, basically, go get your own oil. He's having a go at the French. Fair enough. Having a go at us. Yeah. Fair enough. Again, I think we're wrong. I think we should have allowed American... I still think they should have allowed Americans to use the base. Right, we're going to be talking more about this in a few moments. Let's go live to Downing Street, where Keir Starmer is about to make his statement.
It's now clear that the impact of this war will affect the future of our country. So today I want to reassure the British people that no matter how fierce this storm, we are well placed to weather it, and that we have a long-term plan to emerge from it a stronger and more secure nation. First, let me say once again, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is such a vital route for energy. To that end, we're exploring each and every diplomatic avenue that is available to us. The Foreign Secretary and the Chancellor have met their counterparts in the G7. The Defence Secretary has been in the Middle East speaking to our partners. And the UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities. Following that meeting, we will also convene our military planners to look at how we can marshal our capabilities and make the Strait accessible and safe after the fighting has stopped. Because I do have to level with people on this. This will not be easy. I spoke with relevant business leaders in shipping, finance, insurance and energy supply in Downing Street on Monday. And they were clear with me the primary challenge they face is not one of insurance, but one of safety and security of passage. So the fact is, we need all of this together. A united front of military strength and diplomatic activity, partnership with industry, so they too can mobilise once the fighting has stopped. And above all, clear and calm leadership. That is what this country is ready to provide. Because my guide from the start of this conflict has always been the British national interest. And freedom of navigation in the Middle East is in the British national interest. Let me turn now to the impact at home. Because I know that this is causing huge concern. People turn on their television, they look at their screens, they say explosions, infrastructure blown up, aggressive rhetoric. They worry that the UK will be dragged into this. We won't. But I also know that people have a deep sense that this will affect their family and their household. They can see it at the petrol pumps, and they worry about their energy bills. It is the job of government to meet these moments, not just with immediate action, but also with clarity about our direction. That's what I remember about the 1970s, when my family could not pay every bill. We struggled through the energy shocks and the price rises of that decade. But we always believed in the end that Britain would secure a better future for us. And I think that's what's been lacking in the crises of recent years. And I'm not prepared to ask the British people once again to go through a crisis, come out of it, and say, business as usual, back to the status quo. So on our economy, on our energy, and on our defence, this time will be different. We will make Britain a fairer and more secure country, because that hope is what is needed as the country comes together, and because how we emerge from this crisis will define us for a generation. So, as I set out a few weeks ago, we have a 5-point plan for the immediate crisis. We're cutting energy bills by over £100 per household today. We've extended the cut in fuel duty until September, and we're monitoring that situation daily. We're supporting people exposed to heating oil rises, setting aside £53 million for that. We're taking back control of our energy security by investing in clean British energy, because that is the only way we get your bills off the roller coaster that is controlled by Putin and the Iranian regime. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of your energy bills fluctuating up and down because we're on the international market, when if we took control of our energy and had homegrown renewables, we could stabilise your bills. And finally, as I say, we'll continue to push for de-escalation in the Middle East. But look, there's also a bigger argument here, because every one of these measures is part of a long-term plan to make our country more secure and more resilient to shocks like this. I mean, just look at what's happening today. Today, your energy bills will be cut because of the action that we took at the budget. And whatever happens in Iran, that price is now fixed until July. Today, if you need a prescription, instead of rising as they used to, the price will be frozen for a year. Today, if you're working on the national living wage, your wages will go up. Next week, on Monday, the state pension will go up. Next week, the two-child limit will be scrapped, lifting 450,000 children out of poverty, the vast majority from working households. And next week, the biggest strengthening of workers' rights in a generation will become law, a huge boost to the economic security of working people. Now, some people may say this isn't new, this was already planned, to which I say, yes, that is my point. Everything I've done in politics, certainly since the Ukraine war in 2022, is a response to this new and dangerous world. We campaigned for a windfall tax on oil and gas companies, which we extended. We focused on the cost of living, and we acted at the budget. And we've always emphasised the need for clean British energy. And we've invested because we knew that making our country secure in this world was the ultimate test that we would face and our ultimate responsibility to the British people. Now, it's not going to be easy, clearly. And in the coming weeks, as you would expect, we will continue to assess the economic effects. We will continue to stand up for the British national interest. And we will continue to do what we must to guide our country calmly through this storm. However, it is increasingly clear that as the world continues down this volatile path, our long-term national interest requires closer partnership with our allies in Europe and with the European Union. Now we have made progress on this front, on agriculture, electricity, emissions trading and more. But as the Chancellor has rightly pointed out, Brexit did deep damage to our economy, and the opportunities to strengthen our security and cut the cost of living are simply too big to ignore. So, in the coming weeks, we will announce a new summit with our EU partners. And I can tell you that at that summit, the UK will not just ratify existing commitments made at last year's summit. We want to be more ambitious. Closer economic cooperation, closer security cooperation, a partnership that recognises our shared values, our shared interest and our shared future. A partnership for the dangerous world that we must navigate together. A world where this government will be guided at all times by the interests of the British people. Thank you. I will now take questions, and I have the BBC first.
Right, OK. For about 10 minutes, I think we can all agree that Keir Starmer said absolutely nothing. It was just a lot of pompous posturing and repeating of not our war, not in our national interest, united fronts, clear and calm leadership. She was basically praising himself for most of those 10 minutes. And then, got the kicker at the end, didn't we? Got that kicker at the end. The whole thing, all of our problems, folks, can be solved not just by net zero, because apparently the solution to us not being able to support ourselves in oil and gas is that we have more wind and solar, even though, of course, that doesn't actually do anything for 80% of our energy needs. I mean, genuinely terrifying that the Prime Minister thinks this. He then threw in the kicker, didn't he? That's fascinating. Any excuse. There is no problem in this world that Tony Blair won't try and solve with digital ID cards, and no problem in this world that Keir Starmer will not try and solve with closer relations with Europe. Yes, with these threats from Donald Trump on NATO and the like, of course, we need to have good relationships with our European partners. I've never wanted anything different from that. I think you'll find it was the EU nations that tried to punish us for our democratic vote for Brexit. He talked about closer allyship with our partners in the EU. Brexit, he said, did deep damage to our economy, and he's going to have another summit, a new summit. Of course, there's always going to be it's always another meeting. That's the only thing he knows about. A new summit with our EU partners about closer economic cooperation, closer security cooperation, talking about our shared values and interests in the future. This is all about the British people's interest. Claire Pearsall, former Conservative government advisor, listening to this. I'm sorry, this is just an excuse to basically tie us in massively back again into the EU. That's what he's doing. You don't need to have...
Yeah.
You don't need to be closer in ties with the EU to cooperate on defence on, say, Ukraine. By the way, we acted quicker than the EU on Ukraine. Why? Because we didn't have to get the agreement of, Hungary and whoever on every single issue. I'm sorry, this is just an excuse to take us back into the EU by the back door. That's what he's doing.
Well, of course it is. He's always been looking for an excuse, and this has just provided him with that. And so you've got a summit going on, the shared values and interests. Well, that's a very vague statement, isn't it? So in what? Does it share my interests? I'm not interested in going back into the EU. I'm not interested in having that closer.
Oh, he'll deny it. He'll deny that it's. But again, the EU nations do not all have the same views on things. No. They are massively divided. That's what is their big handcuff. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to leave, so we can do stuff in our national interest, not in the EU, what Brussels bureaucrats think. Genuinely, I was sitting there the whole through that, and I kept saying to you, didn't I? I can't. He's not said anything. It's just pompous, patting himself on the back about clear and calm leadership. He's just patting himself on the back for not our war. We'll not be drawn into this conflict. The conflict's not in our national interest. Sorry, he didn't make a decision not to get involved in the war. He dithered. Didn't know what to do. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that when our British base, RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, gets a missile attack from Iran, pretty sure we are actually involved in this war. Actually, I hate to tell him, but I mean, I just. In terms of dealing with what he's going to do with the cost of living, again, he didn't offer any help to people on that. No. There's question marks to me about whether he should. I mean, in terms of handouts, I would say no. Cutting tax, the VAT on fuel and things like that would be more useful to everybody. But again, he just talked about more meetings with more people who've got better things to do than sit and be yapped at by this man.
But that's what he thinks government is. He thinks that holding meetings is how you deal with stuff.
He should be running a big HR department. That's what he should be running, a big HR department for a nice big company in a nice office outside Slough, and he would never bother us again. And they just called meeting after meeting, using everyone's time up so no one could get anything done, but he didn't actually bother the rest of us.
Yeah, and he can go and deal with soft furnishings in the reception area. I don't care. He's got a 5-point plan.
Strong opinions on that.
Yeah,
you'd have a meeting about it.
He would. Several. 5-point plan. Which
I must have dozed off during that bit.
I think you did. I think your attention had gone. But it's all of the things that he's already put in place. And they're not exactly catchy. The only one that is useful is the heating oil help. Yeah. So for those that are off-grid, cost of heating oil, a bit of assistance with that.
But he mentioned things like prescriptions. I mean, again, the things they've been touting today about helping people, it's just sort of minimum wage going up, living wage going up. Again, that's really good for those people, apart from the fact that employers are saying, along with the national insurance increase for employers, that actually that's meaning they're cutting jobs. That's the net effect of it. Prescriptions, cost frozen. I'm saying 90% of people don't pay prescriptions. When I'm at my local chemist, they said, "Do you pay for your prescriptions?" Because I go through the motions, and I go, "Yeah." And they look at me like, we don't know what to do. I mean, no one pays for prescriptions around here. The freeze on rail fares. Again, 90%, I think 95% of people don't get a train from one year to the next. It's that. I mean, no one. This is a middle class thing. The energy bill support. No, that's Ofgem. That's not the government. That's Ofgem. And by the way, it's going down about £110, isn't it? This for 3 months up to end of June. But it's going to go up. They reckon all the experts reckon it's going to go up by £300 after that. I mean. And also, by the way, your council tax, you say, going up. People are being dragged into higher tax bans on April the 6th and higher national insurance rates. People's water bills going up, the TV licence going up, your mobile phone contract is undoubtedly going up, your rent's going up, almost certainly. Your mortgage probably, it ain't going down. For a lot of people, it will be going up. Fuel prices at the pumps. Again, most people in this country drive. They don't get trains. I mean, you name it. You name it, it's all going up. And by the way, they're raking an extra 20 million quid a day from all the taxes on fuel. I mean, I'm sorry, mate, that Prime Minister, that really, you and your...
It doesn't work,
I mean,
does it?
You and your clear and calm leadership. I mean, sorry, love to hear your reaction to what you had to say. My question to you was, what help, if any, Should Keir Starmer give Brits amid rising prices due to the war in Iran? We didn't hear. Again, he does these meetings, he does these statements, and he doesn't actually say anything other than the fact, basically, going back into the EU by the back door is what he's pretending would actually be. I mean, this is his mission, isn't it? He wants a European Commission job when he's done. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. You can text the word talk in your message to 87222. I'm sorry, I'm absolutely piping mad now. I really am. I don't trust his people as far as I can throw him. And he's had enough coronation chicken and suppers that I definitely couldn't throw him anymore. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Give me a call. Calm me down, please. We've got lots of top guests to talk to on the show. Lots to come. But we're going to take your calls up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense. So we've got a lovely guest to get to, James Ball, in just a few moments, but we're going to get to your calls first. I'm just hopping mad about that press conference against him. He's still giving the press conference, but we know he's not going to say anything more than he actually said. And he didn't really say anything. Oh, in the middle of that, there was a 5-point plan, but it was basically a load of, cutting our energy bills for a few months, and, the heating oil thing, which affects a very small number of people. And I'm not entirely sure it's what you call a plan, let alone 5-point. But let's go to your calls. 0344 499 1000 is the number to get in touch. James in Staffordshire. Hello, James. What do you want to say?
Hello again, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed.
I actually phoned up before
you heard him. You spat your tea
well,
out, and now...
Basically, he's the reverse ferret, isn't he? So basically, literally anything that guy says is a lie.
Oh, where are you? What was that little noise?
That was my computer firing up.
Oh, right. I was going to say, I thought there was going to be an announcement. Could all passengers please go to the front of the queue?
And the exits are here, here, and here. But, I phoned up because about a month ago, we had a brownout in the small town where I live.
And a brownout is not quite a blackout, but basically you lost some of your energy.
Yeah. So none of the petrol stations worked, none of the high street worked, and it killed the mobile phones.
Yeah.
So I don't think people realise that this weird ideology that says, the green and clean energy can ever work.
Yeah.
You can't heat your homes with it unless you've got a heat source pump.
Yep.
I've just spent £5,000 to put a battery in to try and offset my electricity bills and stuff, but that doesn't work if the mains grid goes off.
Wah, wah, wah. I mean, that's just cartoonish. But this is the thing. The Prime Minister was talking about basically, dealing with the perils of the international market in gas and oil. The solution is if we have more homegrown renewables. But wind and solar are intermittent and they need backup. Oh, and they only cover 20% of our energy needs.
Yeah, can I make a couple of comments on that?
Yeah.
Firstly, for every kilowatt of renewable energy that we have, and I've got solar and that battery, you need another kilowatt to back it up for the days when it's a dark day, etc., etc.
Yep.
The second thing is oil is sold on the commodities market. So it's basically it's dependent on the where it's pulled from, the quality of the oil.
Yep.
There is no such thing as an international oil market,
No, exactly.
and that's because America has gas. My sister lives in America. Her gas costs are a quarter of ours.
Of course they are. Yeah, but of course it would make no difference if we were producing our own, apart from the fact that every country that produces its own has lower fuel costs. It's almost like it's just a complete random coincidence, isn't it? James, I'll leave it there with you. Thank you so much. Let's go to Chris, who's in Bournemouth. Chris, what do you make of what the Prime Minister had to say?
A complete and utter liar. He's taken us in through the back door. But my main point is cost. And he said the other day that petrol stations have got plenty of fuel.
Yeah.
Right. I'm an HGV driver.
Yeah.
I drive the length and breadth of this country.
Yep.
Yesterday and today, I've called into at least 7 stations that haven't got any fuel and have no idea when their next delivery is going to turn up.
So you've gone to one and they haven't got it. So you've called ahead to see who's got fuel and they're just saying, nope, sorry,
No,
when you're getting it, I don't know.
Stations. I've actually drove into the stations to try and get fuel.
Yeah.
I've got it now.
Yeah.
But they're all saying the same thing. We're out of fuel for HGVs, and we don't know when we're going to get the next lot because what you put in your car to what I put in my lorry is
different.
totally different.
Yeah. But is it diesel? Because most lorries are diesel, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we know that diesel prices are the ones that
for the lorry.
Really gone up.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And basically, here's the thing, though. Wait a minute. Here's the thing, Chris. Everything we buy in the shops at some point is on a lorry, isn't it?
Yes. So when the lorries stop running, what's going to happen?
But the government's got contingency plans, and we're told to carry on as normal. There's nothing wrong, Chris. We have clear and calm leadership. He told us. So what are you worried about?
I'm worried about what he wants to do and what Mr. I can't say his name because he really makes my blood boil. Is get these licences issued and start drilling in the North Sea.
Hear to that, Chris.
That way, It's the thing. He's on about all these renewables. It's not going to happen overnight.
I know. But that's their argument. It won't solve it overnight. No, but that's why we should have been doing it, by the way, under the Tories a long time ago. Chris, thank you for that. Look, good luck getting the next load of HGV diesel in as well. 10:39 is the time. Quick break. Then we'll be talking to James Ball of The New World. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, this is indeed Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. The home of common sense is here. Let's talk right now to James Ball. He's political editor of The New World and joins us this morning. Sorry to come to you late, James, but a small matter of the Prime Minister giving us some of his clear and calm leadership. So I'm afraid we lost a bit of time. Morning to you.
Good morning. I'm sick of Keir trying to upstage me. He's so jealous.
It's outrageous, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure he said very much, other than at the end. There's sort of like the old, and this is your favourite, bearing in mind your newspaper, your magazine used to be called The New European. Basically, the old, oh, looks like another great excuse for us to go back into the EU by the back door, which is what I heard when he talked about closer allyship with our partners in the EU is apparently the solution to all of our problems. Is it?
I mean, I would like to go back in through the front door. I'm not going to pretend I don't want that. I think it's better for me to be honest. I think the problem is that Keir manages to cheese off Brexiteers and anyone who voted for that by saying he wants closer cooperation. And so he loses all the support of that. But all he does is say he wants it. He's got his red lines that don't let him go back in the customs union, don't let him go back in the single market.
They're not his red lines, they're the electorate's red lines. He was forced to say it. He doesn't mean it. He doesn't want to do it.
Well, I mean, yes, he stood on a manifesto with those red lines, but people go back on manifesto promises. But for... there's a bloody cat.
Oh, not the cat again.
I'm sorry.
Apologies for the language.
Right. Sorry about that. But as long as he keeps saying closer union but not doing it, he's going to take the political hit from people who still support Brexit, and he's going to get no credit from people who want the cooperation. And he's not going to get the economic benefits or the other things that go with it. So I think just repeating it on its own when people are looking for concrete access and concrete changes in a very real crisis is a mess.
Well, indeed, and again, and this is a very big mantra, though, among the sort of the left of the Labour Party and the Remainer crew, which is that everything that's gone wrong in the country is down to Brexit. They completely ignore the small matter of COVID and lockdowns and an international lockdown and all the policies there and all the big bailout that we're still paying for. They completely ignore the Ukraine war. Every problem is down to Brexit. I mean, it's a load of abject nonsense. Even if one was anti-Brexit, to claim that. In terms of what he talked about, his clear and calm leadership. I mean, the first 10 minutes of that press conference was him telling everyone how good he was at being Prime Minister, not getting involved in a conflict, which... I mean, he kind of basically dithered on and didn't get involved in sort of ish and accidentally came across a policy which seemed to be largely popular with most people. It's not really clear and calm leadership, is it?
It's a bit painful to watch, to be honest.
It is.
It felt a bit like he was telling us, didn't we know how good we had it and how grateful we should be? But, I mean, essentially, my problem was... things aren't that good. People are quite angry. People want concrete measures. And he seemed to just be talking about stuff the government had been doing anyway. This energy price bill cut, sure, that's fine. What's going to happen in July when the oil price stuff comes through?
But also a lot of the stuff he's talking about, let's be honest, is again, he's giving himself a pat on the back. I mean, he may as well just go on stage, just pat himself on the back in front of us and go, I'm great. When actually we're talking about really basic stuff. And most of the things he claims to have done are again, bare minimum or a meeting with other people who frankly have got better things to do than hang around number 10 with him.
I do think it would be better if he only gave a press conference when he had something to say. If he had some concrete package of measures to announce and people are worried, then they'd be there. I think he's very, very nervous of saying there might actually be shortages. I can understand why he worries about that. But when people see other European leaders saying it and looking at asking people voluntarily to drive a bit slower to see if they can save a few trips, the government keeps saying that's not necessary. They don't want to get caught saying that.
Well, it's true. So once you say to people, we might have shortages, everyone then goes and fills up their car, which they wouldn't otherwise do, and then you do have shortages. But the thing is, the reality is we're going to start seeing it. Chris, lorry driver, just on the phone, you must have just heard him saying, basically went to 7 different stations that didn't have his fuel for his HGV. When that carries on happening, and we know diesel, is particularly, I mean, it's different diesel, as he pointed out, for lorries, but diesel is particularly the price going sky high. Filling up a typical average family car has now gone over the £100 mark. And again, people who live in London, who either work from home or with their cats on their desks, as people who will have seen James Bond, if you're watching, wrestling with his cat while wrestling with me. People who, those young men who work in Downing Street, who get the tube or cycle to work, they have no understanding of how important fuel costs are to most people in most parts of the country to just live their daily lives and indeed to do their jobs.
Exactly that. I think... Look, people see this stuff come through, it gets there, but if you don't drive a car, you don't see this daily. Your first impression of that will be when when your fuel price goes up in July.
Yeah.
But people are aware it's coming. Cost of living has been very tight, has been very difficult for quite a long time. And so people are looking at the headlines, they're looking at the bills, they're worried about their food costs. And I think for the Prime Minister to come out when people are that anxious and not have something concrete and new to say plays quite badly. And I don't know why, if he didn't have something to announce yet, it feels like something's going to have to come.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, if he didn't have something to say, why come out and put himself on camera? It's just baffling to
Local
me.
elections. I mean, we had the launch yesterday. They're the last party to launch. I mean, this is the thing. Everything is very political now, and it's about sort of posturing on the world stage. But there's a lot more going on, isn't there? Because we've had he's talking about the need to sort of, de-escalate and reopen the Straits of Hormuz. Yesterday, Donald Trump said, I mean, it's non-stop, these Truth Social posts and interviews, where he said, basically, if you want, you want to reopen the Straits of Hormuz, that's basically going to be down to other countries. Go get your own oil, or you can buy from us. He wrote yesterday in an interview with The Telegraph, he said that he's seriously considering, the US leaving NATO. Now, bearing in mind, I believe that would actually involve congressional approval. It would take a period of time. There's a notice period. He may well lose control of Congress. In fact, a lot of Republicans would have a question mark with that in the midterm elections in November. So, again, easier said than done. But it's all very well. Keir Starmer saying everything's fine, we're on top of everything. But actually, he hasn't got control of what's happening in Britain, and certainly not what's happening in the rest of the world.
I mean, this is the thing. And let's be honest. Of course, you're right about the legal status of leaving NATO. But if the president makes it clear he's got no commitment to the alliance, if he makes it clear, he wants to be out and he doesn't care, then NATO is effectively useless from that moment on, even if the treaty still exists and the piece of paper is still there. I think, some of what Keir Starmer was saying was looking at that. He is looking towards building closer security ties with Europe. But Europe is going to take years to build up any kind of defence capacity, let alone something comparable to America. But I'm not sure what he can do with a president who doesn't want to be his ally. And nothing about yesterday suggested that the new state visit did anything to help, did it?
Well, I was going to say,
King Charles,
should the state visit go ahead?
Two-fingered salute. I had been saying yes for a long time. I think, that is a gesture to the American people. It's the 250th birthday of America. Send the king. He is very good at glad handling. He can be nice to Donald Trump. I think when the day you announce it, you get two very public insults from the president and the secretary of war at a time when the America has caused us a huge economic crisis and political crisis. I think that yesterday the line was crossed. I think it hits the point of going, actually, stuff it.
Very interesting. James Ball, political editor of The New World. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. 10:49 is time. I'm going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be hearing from my favourite space buff, and I hope he doesn't mind me using that term, Andy Lound, about that Artemis II launch to travel to the dark side of the moon. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning. Welcome back to the show. Well, let's leave this all matter of the cost of living and war in the Middle East and goodness knows what, and let's talk about, leaving this planet. Because if all goes to plan, technically and weather-wise, this evening, UK time, around 11:24 p.m, we should see liftoff of Artemis II, a rocket taking the first manned crewed mission since 1972 to the moon. Not to land on the moon, to go round it and come back again. But Is it all worth doing? Well, let's talk to my favourite space boffin, space expert, Andy Lound, about this. A very good morning to you, Andy.
Having me again.
Hello there. I always love an excuse to talk to you about these things. Let's just talk to us, first of all, just about what this mission actually involves, because it's a mission to the moon, but we're not actually walking on the moon this time.
No, this is more or less the equivalent to the old Apollo 8 mission in 1968, which is a mission used to test the spacecraft as it goes on its journey to the moon to make sure that communications work. The spacecraft works with humans on board. The first time humans will be on board this particular spacecraft, the Orion, and it's the first time this large rocket, the SLS, will be launched with a human payload on board. So it's really the full test before you actually send people to actually land on the moon, if you like, to test the spacecraft out for that actual journey. And they'll be doing a free return, which means they travel towards the moon at 24,500 miles per hour. Moon's gravity will grab the spacecraft, bend it round the moon and send it on its way back to the Earth. It's a very fuel efficient way of doing the mission.
Sort of a boomerang around. We've all seen The Martian. We know how this works. We're all up to date on all of this, aren't we? And again, they go on about, it's the first one, but there's the first black astronaut, the first woman astronaut. No one cares about this nonsense. But this does matter because the next mission will go further, won't it?
Well, the next mission, there's been a rescheduling of it all, which runs it, funny enough, more or less in line with the way Apollo was. The Artemis II will actually launch into Earth orbit, where they will practice docking with one or two of the proposed landing vehicles onto the surface of the moon. So they'll be practicing docking systems in Artemis III, and then Artemis IV will be the actual landing on the moon itself, probably towards the South Polar region, where they believe there is water ice.
Right, and then this is all about setting up a sort of a permanent station on the moon, like we've got the ISIS station, the permanent station in space, and this is all with a view to long-term going to Mars, isn't it?
Yes, right. I mean, the idea is in Apollo days, we went to the moon, grabbed some rock samples, left some instruments and came back again. And sort of that was it. No, this time we're going to stay on the moon, where scientists can actually do long-term research on the moon, which is more practical, get the practice up for long-duration spaceflight, surviving in an alien environment, and that is preparations then, of course, for going to Mars, where you'll test all the equipment that you would need to survive on Mars, which will be really quite important to do that. Near, where you're only 4 days away on Earth, is 4 days away on the moon, is a lot much safer than just going out willy-nilly to Mars itself.
Which is at least a 6 months flight, and that's if everything goes well.
That's correct, and that's at the best approach of Mars' position to the Earth. So you're looking for a long duration flight to Mars, and of course you're looking for 2 years before you could come back because of the relative position of Earth and Mars.
Oh, right. That's quite a commitment. Yeah, you need to know everything is working. You haven't got the option of abort, we're coming back. Not an option.
No, not as simple as that. Whereas with the moon, you've got 28 days windows. Probably 4 to 6 opportunities to go to the moon every 28 days. Mars, it's a 2-year window. So yes,
right.
Got to do everything tested down.
I can't imagine doing a job where you're working with these sort of contingencies. I was, as expected, I heard the BBC this morning. They've got a programme this evening on the radio talking about the troubling moral questions. I know this is going to make your blood boil, Andy. Troubling moral questions about this, spending billions going to the moon. But we have, their words, poverty, disease and climate crisis back here on Earth. But also, do we risk... Try not to swear at this point, everybody. Do we risk repeating the mistakes of colonial expansion?
Oh, you're kidding, really?
I'm not. It's BBC. Of course I'm not kidding, Andy.
Oh, well, you unfortunately get some people who don't really know what they're talking about speaking loudly. They speak louder than everybody else, usually, unfortunately. But no, I mean, talk about the billions being spent on it. The technology that comes out of the space program is actually very useful. And they're talking about green issues. Actually, we need green technology to go to space because we have to be efficient. And therefore, that technology can filter back down to the Earth itself. Yep. And if they talk about spending billions doing this, let's look at the Premier League. How many billions are spent in the Premier League kicking a ball about?
Let's prioritise. No, but exactly. But I mean, don't people think we've got talkSport the next corridor? They'll be very upset with you. But no, but this is the thing. This is about I mean, maintaining the safety of humanity, isn't it? Yeah. If an asteroid hits us and our planet is no longer habitable, having somewhere else to go. This is about exploring space. This is about finding new minerals, finding new methods of energy, to actually further things on this planet and make life better for people on this planet.
Yes, the human species is a migratory species by its nature. It came out of Africa, it spread around the planet, then we left Europe and went into the Americas. And this is what we do as a species. We're not just stuck to one place. And therefore, the next step for us is to venture outwards. I mean, there's only a limitation to the population, so we're actually going to be spreading at some point.
You'd be on this rocket today if you could, wouldn't you?
Of course I would, yes, absolutely.
And the chances of this happening tonight, they reckon 80% with the weather. Do you reckon we're going to see it?
Yeah, very good. It's all about, really, at the moment, it's all about weather. There's several tests that need to be done. The fuelling up is going to start taking place in a couple of hours. That's the big test to see if all the seals work, the hydrogen fuels.
And then we just got to hope the weather holds and the clouds and everything. I'm very excited. I know we're going to speak to you tomorrow when, fingers crossed, it will all have happened. Andy Lown, lovely to hear from you. I love your reaction to that BBC show. I will get Claire Bissell's reaction to all of that coming up. Plus Keir Starmer's press conference in number 10. Try and keep it clean, people. This is Talk. Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return. To the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The Ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegation of this $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out. The first tranche of it will be early next month.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. Fast approaching 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk with the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio, whether you're on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, thank you so much for your company. Lots to talk about with you all the way until 1 o'clock. Delighted to say Claire Bissell, former Conservative government advisor, is joining me for all of that. Very good morning to you. If you miss anything, go to my YouTube page, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe, never have to miss a thing. Coming up, we're going to be talking about that press conference Keir Starmer gave. Basically, It's all absolutely wonderful. His clear and calm leadership is brilliant. And what we really need is to basically have closer allyship with the EU. You know what he's up to. I know what he's up to. And he thinks we're too stupid to notice, mate. We are absolutely not. We're going to be talking about the state visit by King Charles. Should he still be going? Why the BBC are being so coy about what they did and didn't know about the accusations against the Radio 2 DJ, now sacked, Scott Mills, about his Met Police questioning him about a serious sexual offence with a boy aged under 16 years old. Apparently the BBC did know about the investigation 7 years ago and kept him on air, and then a year ago a new information kept him on air. Again, small point worth making. No charges brought, no prosecution, no guilt, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of any criminal prosecution. People are innocent until proven guilty, are they not? Plus, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump's threat to, that he's seriously minded to withdraw the US from NATO. That at the same time as our first Sea Lord, the man in charge of the Royal Navy, says that the Royal Navy is not actually ready for war. Bit of a worry, given the entire job of the Royal Navy is to be, I don't know, ready for war. I'd have thought be on the list, number one. Anyway, lots to talk about. Particularly want to hear from you in terms of your reaction to what Keir Starmer had to say. He has talked about cost of living, and basically says we're ahead of the game when it comes to the cost of living. I don't know where he's living, but I'm not entirely sure that his supposedly clear and calm leadership he keeps patting himself in the back for is delivering that, given how our cost of living is going up. But what help, if any, should Keir Starmer give Brits amid rising prices due to the war in Iran? Love to hear your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. Your thoughts generally on what he had to say at that press conference, and indeed his reaction to what Donald Trump has had to say about NATO. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. As I say, Claire Pearsall is with me in the studio. Didn't get a chance to come back to you on the topic about the Artemis II launch, but I promise I am going to come to that with you, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But that press conference, I mean, we managed to stay awake the first 10 minutes where he said absolutely nothing. And then he threw in this sort of EU line. He had his 5-point plan, and basically it's telling us, when he was actually asked questions, that we're ahead of the game when it comes to the cost of living, despite the fact the OECD, the IMF have said the last couple of days we're actually the worst affected major economy because basically of our reliance on imports of fossil fuels, which is the main thing affected by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranians as a result of those attacks by the US and Israel. Donald Trump is talking about basically, go get your own. He actually messaged it, go get your own oil. Got a problem? You guys go and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Talking about he could, in a few weeks, he could just pull out. Whether the Strait of Hormuz is closed still or not. Would the Iranians reopen it? Would they not? We don't know. And now he's talking about pulling the US out of NATO. I mean, I have to say, I do feel sorry for Keir Starmer, because you on some seriously shifting sands when you're dealing with this American president, whether you like the American president or not. He does make this stuff hard for his allies. Do you think he has provided the clear and calm leadership he claims? And do you think that his policy in terms of acting in our national interest, not getting drawn into the conflict, is working?
No, he just
Fair
isn't.
enough.
And I do hate the fact that you said there's a long-term plan. Is there? I don't think there are. I don't think he's got any plan whatsoever. The Prime Minister dithered around whether to let the US use our bases, and what happened is that Akrotiri was bombed. We didn't send anybody out there, and the French had to come and rescue us, as did the Germans and the Greeks.
Not entirely embarrassing at all. No.
Not at all. So, I mean, the Prime Minister going on about de-escalation, we all want to see that, but it isn't going to make any difference to the cost of living crisis here, which is what this whole press conference was meant to set out, how he was going to improve the lives of British people.
Did we hear anything?
Nothing.
He set out a 5-point plan, which you managed to stay awake for, and all credit to you for that, Claire. Everyone else had to be sort of jolted. Cutting our energy bills, but Ofgem did that. And that's only for 3 months.
That's right.
And it's only £100 and a bit for the average bill.
Well, that's right. And all of the experts believe that from July it's going to go up by at least £300. So
let me check.
Where's the Ed Miliband's £300?
No, but let me check. Is £300 going up more than £100 and a bit going down? Can anyone help with the maths? Because, Rachel Reeves can't help us. As I said, our abacus has been broken for months.
So we've got that. But Ed Miliband also promised that they were going to go down immediately by £300. I haven't seen any of that.
He said fuel duty It's going to be cut until September.
Absolutely. And so that was already in place. They don't know what is going to happen come September. They don't know if they're going to keep the fuel duty cap in place, whether it's going to increase. I suggest that they're looking to increase it.
But other countries are cutting their fuel duty. But here's the thing, this is the thing that really, it's just fuel duty and VAT. Yeah. More than half of what you pay at the pumps, whatever you're buying, is going to the exchequer. Yes. But it's that they put, I think it's 5% VAT, isn't it?
Yes,
on fuel and on domestics. But they put the 5% VAT on top of the fuel duty.
Yes.
So you're paying a tax on the tax, and because the actual cost of fuel is going up, the fuel duty is going up as a percent because it's a percentage, and the VAT on top of it. So the Chancellor's getting an extra 20 million a week, but they say yes, but our costs of borrowing are going up, so that's more than offset by that. Meanwhile, people's cost of living has gone up.
It makes me so angry. I got lectured on social media by somebody that told me that if you take all of that money away, if you cut the VAT, if you cut fuel duty, you'll have to find the money from somewhere.
Well, this is true.
Yes, I get that. I didn't need a lecture from, Mr. Man on the internet. But what are you going to do to help these prices? Because places like India have made cuts. Over in the Middle East, it is a lot cheaper. In Europe, they're also making cuts.
But also they're talking about, if necessary, they will give money to people on benefits only. Rachel Reeves confirmed that yesterday. So if people need help with their bills, it's going to be benefits claimants who get that. And again, there are plenty of people who absolutely will deserve that. We want them to get the help. However, there are also, let's be honest, millions of people on benefits who have no business being on benefits, who don't need them and who we are subsidising. And you end up in the situation where, once again, you are actually basically creating a benefit trap where moving on to a minimum wage job where you're not getting that extra help, and you're cutting your council tax, and you're cutting this, and you're cutting that, and your free prescriptions, and all of that, that actually it becomes a massive big to cut in your living standards to actually go out to work. So that's not a good thing. But again, they're going on about helping people. Benefits are up, minimum wage, living wage are both up again. But companies are saying again and again, and we are seeing the reality is they're not just saying it. The reality, you can see it in the job stats. They're not employing people. They're getting rid of people at the margins. People aren't getting the pay rises unless you work in the public sector. But sick pay from day one. They're going to start bringing in. Seriously, so many businesses are going to be absolutely stuck by that. But you've got council tax up by 5% for most people. That's another 110 quid a year. People are being dragged on April the 6th into higher tax bands and national insurance bands. I mean, these are going to be, basically any extra money you earn, that is going to be taxed at 40%, not 20%. Sorry, but you ain't going to feel the benefit of that, folks. You could think you've got a big pay rise. You haven't. Your water bill's going up, your TV licence, if you're still paying it. Mobile phone costs, huge costs for an awful lot of families. Your rent's going up because mortgages ain't going down because of the interest rate. We were thinking there could be 4 cuts by the end of this year. That's not happening. And particularly, I think the really big one is the fuel prices, because again, 80% of people in this country, they actually drive a car every day for work or to work or the like. And again, the Prime Minister's going on about, and Rachel Reeves and others talking about, freezing rail fares. Most people don't get a train from what. Not only do they not get a train to and from work, they don't get a train from one year to the next. It's just not even part of what they're spending. And prescription costs frozen. 90% of prescriptions no one pays for. They're just talking about. It's just a bunch of people in Islington who've moaned about these little things, and they're all worried about these things, and they're looking after their mates.
And when you listen to the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, they'll go on about free breakfast clubs because that's making everything feel better. And I have to scream at the television every single time they're not free.
Not free, they're paid for.
But they put it forward as
also no one can't afford to give their kid food in the morning. You can't. Oh, sorry, on what planet can you not afford cereal, milk and a slice of bread for your kid in the morning?
Exactly,
I simply do not accept that. It's absolutely, again, it's just... And also, why are you subsidising? So if I had a young kid now, God forbid at the age of 57, my kid at state school would be getting a free breakfast subsidised by other taxpayers. That's obscene. It's absolutely obscene. He definitely wants to take us back into...
Here we go.
I started off today in a really good mood. Can you imagine being married to Keir Starmer? Wouldn't he drive you up the wall?
Within minutes.
I think you'll find that when I was sorting the laundry, I showed clear and calm leadership in separating the socks.
I mean, he's so pompous. He pats himself on the back for just turning up on time. He's one of those people.
Yeah, he
does a whole press conference, as you say, in which he really didn't say anything concrete at all. He thinks he's being all statesman-like, and he just looks ridiculous.
He does, and he tried to be all sort of come down to your level. I'm with the people. I'm going to level with you.
I do have to level with people in this. This will not be easy. I think him and his little coterie, his little special advisor. I mean, whoever's left. I mean, he goes through them every half hour. I mean, they're all sitting there with their 5 mobile phones, none of which are backed up. May or may not have been stolen last night. And he does. And they come up with these things like, oh yeah, this makes you sound like you're the son of a tool maker, not the son of a bloke who ran the factory and who bought a donkey farm for his mum for £100,000 or whatever it was. I mean, this makes you sound normal, Prime Minister. This makes it sound like there wasn't an act of Parliament to protect your multi-million-pound pension deal after you left as Director of Public Prosecutions. You sound really like a man of the people.
But also trying to make out that he'd had a really tough upbringing. Sitting round the table, he knew how hard it was for his family. No, you didn't. I mean, okay, and what kid does? Because when you're a kid, you don't
think your parents do is you try and protect you from things like that.
Absolutely, and you get on with being a kid. So I don't buy any of that.
I can certainly remember my mum dodging the bank manager in the Sainsbury's. Can't pay the mortgage this month, but anyway. I just found the whole thing very frustrating. But but there we are. He goes on about his guide from the start of this conflict has been British national interest, and then he whittled on about how we have to have more homegrown renewables as a solution to not being able to get enough gas and oil. Genuinely want to scream. I actually want to grab him by the shoulders and scream at him, saying, "Do you understand?" Basic stuff. You'd think he's having all these meetings. He's had all these energy bosses in, all these, these experts in this field. You think one of them might have explained to him how stuff works in a modern economy. But there we are.
I bet they did.
What do you make of Donald Trump's? I'm glad there's a meeting. Rachel Reeves got a meeting with a load of supermarket execs today, except it's not a load of them. Most of them have said they're actually a bit too busy to turn up. What with doing a proper job and all?
But it's also Easter, isn't it? So you look at the pressures on supermarkets around this time. They're making sure that the shelves are full.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, if it's a choice between making sure I get my chocolate and Rachel Reeves gets her meeting, chocolate every time, people. Chocolate every time. Thank you to the bosses of those supermarkets who put it right. Donald Trump basically taunting, the Prime Minister, go get your own oil, saying the US will leave Iran in 2 or 3 weeks, whether we have a deal or not, threatening to pull the US out of NATO. We've got the King going on a state visit in a couple of weeks, marking his 250th anniversary of basically, the colonials leaving us. How's that worked out for you, America? OK, pretty well, fair enough. But the King going on that state visit, there's a bit of a war of words. We never know what Donald Trump means or what he doesn't mean, or whether he means it that hour or he doesn't mean it the next day. How worried are you about that side of things? The war.
It's difficult to get a handle from Donald Trump, because he'll say one thing, as you just said, he'll say one thing and then do another. He said that the war was going to be quick and then it was over and that he'd won. And here we are still, several weeks on and we're still going through it. So I think he's almost getting a little bit bored of the situation. His attention is going to be on something else. It is concerning, but I don't think that we need to react every single time he says, go and get your own oil, go and do this. I think we just need to
But there is the worry, if he does pull out and just says, the 4 to 6 weeks they were saying, and Netanyahu was saying that in terms of war aims, they're over halfway, but not in terms of the time. There's no doubt at all Iran's military capability has been massively depleted by the Israeli and the US strikes. However, they've also flexed a muscle and shown their power over the world's economy, when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz and the ability to close it down. Major tactical error. I mean, serious major, everyone involved should be sacked levels of tactical error by the US. To not have had that contingent. I can't believe the Israelis weren't going, oh, by the way, you need to do this. No point flying Marines in, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in.
No, it's too late.
But is there an argument that if America leaves, massive humiliation for the Americans, they've exposed that Iran is basically able to fight off anything, not with a nuclear weapon, but simply by choking a chokehold on the world economy.
Yeah.
America doesn't get their oil through the Strait of Hormuz. They don't care. But the impact of people not being able to get their oil for months and gas for months and weeks on end is going to be huge.
It is going to be enormous, and also the other impact of it is that the Iranian mullahs are going to be empowered by this, because they're going to see America pulling out and say, we've defeated the West, which is the message that they will put out undoubtedly.
And they'll be right.
And they will be right. And then they can think they can get away with absolutely anything going forward. So you may well have changed the regime a little bit. You've shuffled around some deck chairs, but you've actually made it more powerful in other ways.
And there's no evidence this new regime, there have been messages. We know there have been messages. We don't believe there have been talks in any meaningful sense. We have no idea.
We don't know.
Again, it's all likelihood that the new Ayatollah is actually lying in a coma with missing a limb. In an underground bunker somewhere. No one's seen him. He's not spoken. I mean, come on. The odds are he's probably not even alive. Who are we kidding? And we don't know who we're dealing with.
And that's your problem, isn't it? Because we knew who we were dealing with before. We didn't like them. We didn't like the way the regime ran.
There was a chain of command.
But there was a chain of command. And now we don't know that. So you've got this vacuum, and you've got people in there that you don't know who they are. You don't know where they're from. You don't know where they are at the moment. And that's a more dangerous situation.
And again, there's a lot of talk like stealing away the nuclear capability. Good luck with that, finding that, getting it out safely and not causing a major nuclear incident.
Exactly.
Seizing Carg Island, where 90% of the oil and gas was exported from the Iranians is perfectly possible. It's a small island, perfectly possible for the
bad idea.
But you can take it, but keeping it will involve a huge loss of life. The American public aren't going to be. They're going to have nothing to do with us. We're not willing to send our boys to die in that way. Let's turn our attention to other stories. Let's talk about Artemis II, its mission to the moon. I loved our space boffin Andy Lowndes' reaction. I wanted to play the audio of this because I was listening and I was just I could have punched the wall. Radio 4 doing a promo for Moral Maze, one of their shows they've invited me on previously. It can be quite sensible, but they talked about the trip to the moon being raising troubling moral questions. That with poverty, disease, their words, climate crisis here on Earth, they never stop a moment to propagandise. And should we be spending billions going to the moon? But also, do we risk repeating the mistakes of colonial expansion? They're insane. They're insane.
It's almost like somebody's university thesis and just put the word discuss on
university. This is sixth form.
Okay,
this is lower sixth. This is someone who, what's that, year 12? This is someone going into debate and everyone going, shut up,
Don't
Susan.
be ridiculous. This is so exciting. I'm really excited about there being a spacecraft launch. I'm going to stay up. I'm that sad. I'm going to stay up.
And is it worth the money? Is it the right thing to be doing? Why?
Yes, it is, because there is other things out there. There is a big void of space out there that we don't know what it's going to contain. And I think that your space boffin guest is spot on. There could be rare minerals. There could be a way of powering the planet that we don't know about. Unless we go and find
keeping humanity existing. If our planet, the biggest single threat to our planet is not the climate crisis. The biggest single threat to our planet is an asteroid strike. Wiped out the dinosaurs, wiped out 90% of the species. Many millions of years ago, and perfectly possible to happen at any time. And there's a strong argument for us having the capability to do. You're basically looking at is it Armageddon, the film?
Yes.
Again, these things are based on. They are literally based on what NASA is actually trying to do, which is you'd send a rocket up and you'd try and basically move. They've actually done some experiments. They've tried to move small asteroids and trying to move them to a different path, so to protect the planet. This stuff is about saving the future of the Earth and saving human beings. And there isn't a climate crisis.
And there's so much that we don't understand about what is surrounding us. But all of those things have a factor about how the solar system exists and how the Earth rotates. All of this kind of stuff.
Every bit of information is useful. And again, this drives the future. And I agree with Andy Lowndes. We are as a nature a species that wants to know more and wants to explore.
We shouldn't stop.
If you were multimillionaire, I'm sure I've asked this before, and you had this money, it was money no object. Would you go up? I wouldn't go to Mars. I'm not that brave.
No. I'd go to the moon.
But would you go into orbit? I'd love to do that. If there's a friendly billionaire, and you just, hi, we are totally up for this. I know we'll do a podcast about it or something.
We'll be really good.
We're totally up for this. Yeah. The mysteries of outer space are one thing. That they are nothing on the mysteries of the thinking process within BBC management. Did you see what I did there, people? Did you see what I did there? BBC bosses being urged to explain why they kept Scott Mills on air while he was probed for sex offences, as we found out on the show yesterday, with a boy aged under 16, only to fire him 7 years later. They apparently knew. They knew when he was being quizzed under caution between 2018 and 2019 by the police. They knew about that. And they did nothing. They kept him there. Yeah. And then we know that's a report in The Sun. The Telegraph reporting that certainly a year ago, a journalist contacted the BBC to say, look, I've been hearing about these allegations and I want to flag, is anything happening? And again, the BBC failed to act. And then they suddenly acted last week, we think, after someone got in touch with them in relation to Hugh Edwards' docudrama on Channel 5, which sort of kind of raised a response. But the coincidence was a bit... What was a bit strange. We don't know. BBC remaining very, very tight-lipped. Big shock to a lot of people. A much-loved star. Presents the biggest breakfast show in the country, the BBC Radio 2, 6.5 million listeners. Paid 360 grand a year. You know, he's... But we're told there's new information that's come to light, that there is some evidence not... Are you... I mean, I'm troubled by people having any sexual contact whatsoever with an under 16-year-old, especially who was in his 20s at the time, but probed about it later. So there's a lot of... We're talking about a long period of time. But I'm also equally troubled by someone being sacked for something for which he was not charged, certainly not convicted. We're not aware of other cases. I don't know. Maybe there are other cases. We have seen this before. This keeps happening. Yeah. Is the BBC... having failed to react properly over Hugh Edwards and numerous other cases and allegations against big stars for years on end, overreacting now, or is this, or should he have never been employed? Where do we draw the line on this? Because people are innocent until proven guilty.
They are, and there needs to be a consistent approach. And I think the BBC... Again, they're another organisation that likes to have a lot of meetings about things and look like they're doing something. But if they knew there was information a year ago, what has changed to pull somebody off air almost immediately?
There is an argument, isn't there, that the evidence for the CPS to pursue a case and to risk someone being put behind bars, have a criminal conviction, that level, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, is different from, say, for instance, a civil court, where it's about probabilities. And I imagine in a work contract, an employment contract, you're looking very much more in balance of probabilities rather than beyond reasonable doubt. And therefore...
Of course, but they don't seem to learn their lesson because everything is seemingly done at the last minute. So,
what, just the day before the Director General leaves?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are too many coincidences coming up, and I think it's unfair on the public to not know where their money is being spent, because at the end of the day we fund them. So
by the way, the lawyers and the HR people, we're paying for all of this as well.
So why isn't there a transparent process available?
Interestingly though, Scott Mills, still no public statement from him since he was taken off Ellis Street and sacked earlier this week. Not a single public statement, and that is going to be an issue, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Although interestingly, of course, I mean, you know, there's been a lot of talk about in the past about, you know, he lost a partner. He's now happily married, but he lost a partner in his 20s, and when he said he's talked about drink and drugs and turned to all of those things. And again, we had Hugh Edwards, didn't we? He was kept on staff on full pay, suspended after the allegations against him, and including the allegations not just about the young man that came up with that docudrama, but also the allegations were proven to be true, that he had these indecent images of babies and, you know, young children being raped. I mean, on his phone, absolutely disgusting stuff. But the defence that he, you know, put yourself into the priority. The mental health defence seems to come up quite a lot. Tiger Woods, by the way, the latest, he's broken his silence after his arrest for driving under the influence and flipping his car over. Yeah, because you can do that at 20 miles per hour, can't you? Following that rollover car crash, and apparently he's now seeking treatment. Now he refused to he passed a drink test, but he's refused to take a test,
a urine sample
and the like. Said he was bleary-eyed, believed to be under the influence of opioids, possibly over the counter. We don't know. Are these for painkillers, whatever? I have to say, everyone's going to have a whole big thing. He's going to come, whatever happens to him, he's going to come back. His sponsors are going to keep sponsoring him. He's going to be allowed to play in tournaments. Absolutely fine. Anyone else would have lost their job. Anyone else would already be in prison by now. A second time turning over a car. He injured himself last time. He could have killed someone on both occasions. He could have killed a child. He was in a built-up area in a residential street. You can see, the curb. I mean, the fact that very, very rich men get away with doing this stuff, and then go, oh, I'm seeking treatment. Mate, I think he's almost a billionaire. I think he's that rich.
Yeah.
You know what? Pay for a driver. Or do you not want do you not want your drivers to know what you're up to? Because we know you're a horrible human being, Tiger Woods, and we know that from the revelations about, and if you ever read the full details of the revelations why his wife divorced him, seriously, read up on it. He's a nasty, nasty, awful human being who has almost killed people twice now. How he still has a sponsor, I don't care how well he swings a stick. I do not care. He is a danger to other people. He should be behind bars right now. And he absolutely... people should not be deifying this man.
No, they shouldn't. He had a lot of talent, which he has ruined himself.
Yeah. He's a damaged soul, I realise that, but it shouldn't be anyone else's problem.
No, it shouldn't be anyone else's problem. He shouldn't be dealt with any differently to you or I that were driving in that kind of state and turning over a car in a residential area, because I'm sure as hell would say that we would not be employed much longer after that.
No way would you keep your job after that. No way in the world. But apparently, yeah. Again, maybe people need to... We actually need to boycott, the products that are being sold in his name. I'm sorry, I'm not interviewing. People lose their careers and their everything. There's job security and everything from writing a tweet. He could have killed somebody. It is a simple matter of luck that he didn't. How many times is he able to do this? And we'll all just go, oh, that's fine. Oh, let's give him a few more 100 million to sponsor him for swinging a stick. Sorry, it doesn't fly with me at all. 11:29 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. I want to hear from you. What help, if any, should Keir Starmer give Brits amid rising prices due to the war in Iran? What did you make of that press conference? Utterly pointless, I would say, other than, we want to go back into the EU by the back door. Coming up, we're going to take your calls. We're also going to be talking to Rebecca Ryan from Defund the BBC about the handling of Scott Mills, and we'll talk to Hamish de Bretton Gordon, a former British Army colonel, about what the hell is going on with that war in Iran. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 11:33 is the time. Let's get some of your messages and your calls coming in thick and fast. Claire says, well, I asked... Oh, Claire. What help, if any, should Keir Starmer give Brits amid rising prices due to the war in Iran? We had a press conference at 10:10. Didn't actually offer anything in particular. Not that we noticed, but we may have dozed off at some point. So I can't be sure. Claire says he should offer his resignation in a general election. I mean, fair enough. Ruth says reduce fuel duty to 25 pence and remove VAT on energy bills. After that, he should resign. I feel a theme coming on, Claire. Dorian says that he could help open up the Strait of Hormuz, but we all know he hasn't got the balls to fight Iran. I don't think we haven't got the boats either, mate. Mena says he should stop Ed Miliband and his net zero policies. We'd save millions, trillions, mate. Andrew says none. We should stop asking the government to borrow and tax more to help us through every crisis. Well, this is it. I mean, I would be thinking about not help for people on benefits. I would rather we cut some taxes to make everything cheaper for everyone and help businesses because they provide jobs, and then people on benefits could get those jobs that apparently they simply can't find at the moment. Nick says he should offer no help. People need to learn that electing incompetent politicians hurts. We can't keep subsidising bad choices. Oh, amen to that, Nick. You wait till the Greens are in charge. Yeah. Cam says his resignation letter would be a good start. There's a lot of those. Let's go to Georgina. She's on the phone in London. Good morning to you, Georgina. What do you want to say?
Good morning, Julia. Well, I thought Keir Starmer's speech this morning was an April Fool, to be honest with you. I've never known a man who can stand there and give a whole speech and actually say nothing. I mean, I can't believe he's raising welfare yet again. What he should be doing is cutting our welfare bills, Julia, and spending that money on our defences, because at the moment we are totally defenceless in every respect. You know, we need to start fracking and drilling for our own fuel, so as we're not totally dependent on other countries. You know, he's doing nothing for our cost of living crisis, putting up minimum wage, for goodness sake. No one's going to be employing anyone, thus more people on benefits. Yeah. It's an absolute nightmare. And as for this war that he keeps saying we're not involved in, well, I'm very sorry, Mr. Starmer. The moment that Iran bombed our base in Cyprus, we became very much involved. And unfortunately, we do need America to watch our back. So not allowing them to land on our air bases was a very, very stupid thing to do. You cannot alienate your allies. And this is why our monarch is having to go over to America now as a buffer for Keir Starmer's incompetence. This should not be allowed, Julia.
Do you think the king shouldn't be going?
No, I think he should be going.
I don't think you can call it off now. I wouldn't arrange the visit now, but you can't call it off now. That would be madness diplomatically.
It was already arranged, Julie, before all this nonsense started. So to call it off now, I mean, we've got to realise Trump behaves like a petulant child. He took umbrance to what Keir Starmer did, and I can quite understand.
Quite right. What's the point of having a joint US-UK airbase if you can't use the airbase?
Absolutely. He shouldn't have had to ask permission. He should have been able to use it. Now, Keir Starmer has caused friction between the UK-US alliance. This is a very stupid thing to do when we are totally at the mercy of other countries. We're defenceless for fuel, we're defenceless for food, we're defenceless for everything. Julia, we need now to start thinking positively about getting our defences on point. We need to spend at least 7% GDP on our defences now. Otherwise, we are going to be in serious trouble.
I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. But I think you'll find the solution is closer ties with the EU if you check more closely. Because according to the Prime Minister, Georgina, always absolutely on point. Thank you very much indeed. Peter is in Suffolk. Peter, want to talk about something completely different, which we're actually going to talk to our next guest about as well, and that is the BBC and how they've handled this Scott Mills affair. What do you make of it all?
Well, hello, Julia.
Hello.
They do it the way they've always done it. Head in the sand until something comes out that they've got to do something about it.
And then a panic.
And then it becomes a scandal.
Yeah.
He should. This is where I disagree with you. He should have been sacked. And it's one of the only times I have disagreed with you. because I was a police officer for 30 years. They changed the balance of evidence as to disciplinary processes from beyond reasonable doubt, which is quite a very high level. With the CPS, it's over 70% chance of getting a conviction.
Can I just go, Peter, just say, you've just moved your phone or your microphone and suddenly you've gone a bit fuzzy. Can we go back to where we were?
Sorry about that.
That's better. Stay still. Stay there. Right, perfect. So they changed the balance. So this is in terms of the charging by the CPS?
Yes.
Okay.
Charging the CPS, you've got to be over 70% probability that they get a conviction.
I thought it was over 50%.
They don't touch it. No.
It's gone to over 70. Well, there you are then again. So, yeah, that's why lots of charges aren't brought. But surely that should be a matter for the jury?
Should be. But the thing is, I was a case officer at a police station for 3 years where I looked at all the evidence and I then sent it off to the CPS and loads came back. And they said, no, we wouldn't get a conviction. And myself and the other detective sergeant went, what are they talking about? Of course we would. So that's the CPS. They're looking at an over 70%.
Right. So that doesn't. You're saying that doesn't mean that there wasn't a case to answer and reasonable concerns at the BBC.
3 years investigation.
That's, you say 3 years investigation, or that's just you're called in and then nothing happens for a year. I mean, come on. That's not. They've not spent 3 years going through messages and interviewing people, have they?
You'd like to think that, but the police are a bit more professional.
Not in my experience.
I would
Sorry.
hope so back then.
Not in my experience.
Back then.
Back then, maybe.
I ran a burglary squad and we had an 85% arrest rate.
Oh.
But then that was in the 80s. So anyway, I digress. So I can understand there is obviously something there. Otherwise, Scott Mills would be screaming and shouting from the rafters, unfair dismissal.
This is the thing. We haven't had a statement from him yet. Again, OK, all interesting points, Peter. Thank you for that. 11:40 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to be talking to Rebecca Ryan, campaign director at Defund the BBC, about how the BBC's handled this. And have you had a letter telling you that, don't forget to pay for your licence fee, because 46 million letters have gone out? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:42 is the time. Well, BBC back in the news, and as always, for all the wrong reasons this week, after the sacking of their breakfast show presenter on Radio 2, the biggest breakfast show in the country. That was Scott Mills. Unceremoniously taken off air, well, last Wednesday onwards. He hasn't been back on air. No statement from him as yet, but we were told it's about his personal conduct. Then it emerged there were allegations. He'd been investigated by the Metropolitan Police. They've confirmed that quite some years ago over claims that he committed serious sexual offences with an underage boy under the age of 16. Now there are claims, the BBC say, well, they only found out about it and acted quickly. Now there are claims that, well, actually they were contacted about this a year ago, but also that they knew about the police investigation 7 years ago and continued to employ him. Let's talk about this with campaign director at Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Good morning to you, Rebecca.
Good morning, Julia.
Plot thickens. We hear something new every day. None of it coming out from the BBC. None of it coming out from Scott Mills. Do you think, on what we know so far, who knows what will change by the end of the day, that the BBC acted correctly?
Oh, absolutely. It's quite clear that they haven't acted correctly, and that we've seen that there was that complaint made or an inquiry made by a journalist a year ago where she was looking for more information. They simply didn't respond to it. So certainly at that point, we know that and they've admitted that they didn't respond and said that they should have done. I mean, how a year ago, in the midst of all of the other scandals that they've got going on, did they not think we better deal with this and deal with it quickly? And that's what's concerning about the BBC, is this pattern of behaviour.
It does seem to be they handle every single situation completely differently, don't they? And it's sort of one person gets treated one way. So if you're a really, really big star, you can get away with basically trying to groom other young men in the newsroom, as Hugh Edwards, numerous people have said was doing, and nothing happens. Allegations of rape and sexual assault against others, numerous claims of bad behaviour, and then other people get sacked. Kay Adams, BBC Scotland, Radio Scotland, getting sacked for apparently throwing a pen, throwing it at someone, and being one naughty word and being rude to a trainee, undermining a trainee, probably telling a trainee they weren't very much use, because they probably weren't. The rules seem to be very different depending on who you are.
Yeah, and where you are in the in the status symbols, in the game with the BBC. And that's the thing, is they protect their stars. And is it a case of they're hiring people with this propensity, or that they actually, by giving them this platform and protecting them, they're kind of almost encouraging it and giving them a green flag to...
But there's a big difference, isn't there, between somebody who's been accused of saying, being a bit rude to colleagues at work, and someone who may or may not have used their position to basically, Hugh Edwards did, and the allegation appears to be, again, although, neither of these men have actually gone to court or been charged with any crime relating to these issues, grooming a young man or a teenage boy in this case. And that's the concern. Are you worried that the BBC, again, they underreact for many years and then they overreact, and then somebody who's not been charged with a crime, who's not been convicted of a crime, loses their livelihood and their reputation?
I'm not overly concerned about that, because I think if you look at the pattern of behaviour, it's just that the BBC needs to get a grip on this. And the fact that the British public are being lead into paying for it means that they really have to. We shouldn't be paying for this. If we are seeing, if these allegations are correct, we're just seeing person after person carrying out these abhorrent crimes, and the British public shouldn't be funding that.
No. I do wonder whether it's people in the public eye. Is there an element, like with politicians, where they're addicted to sort of the thrill and they're kind of they're risk takers, and therefore, and I'm talking about no one in particular, and therefore they're attracted to that sort of job, or are they just as representative? They could have in another life they could have been working as a photocopier salesperson, and committed the same crimes, but we wouldn't be front page news.
Well, absolutely. But I think the thing, as you say, they're probably people who are in those kind of jobs are kind of risk-taking kind of people. But at the same time, the BBC has had this issue for decades, and it needs to get a grip on it. It doesn't really matter how it happens. It's just that the BBC has to deal with it.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem that hard. I mean, Jimmy Savile, people like, as soon as someone is exposed, you expose them, and then everyone's completely happy for them to leave their job. I mean, it's amazing how many people seem to think that Hugh Edwards was hard done by. If they do that, they simply don't know the facts around that case. Do you think, again, it's a BBC problem, or is it a media problem? We had the issues over Philip Schofield at ITV. We've had issues over other men who, with Channel 4 in terms of, allegations of rape that they're now facing, for goodness sake. Is it across the media generally? Does the BBC have a particular problem, or do we have a particular problem with the BBC because we're forced by law to pay for them?
Yeah, I think it is probably a media problem, as you said there, with Philip Schofield and what have you. And I think that the problem is that we're forced to pay for the BBC, and therefore it should be held to a higher standard, because they have this ability to tax us for watching any live broadcast TV whatsoever.
Yeah. Not even them.
Yes, exactly. Well, so that's frustrating for people.
A lot of people we know are no longer paying for their licence fee. I think the number of people paying for the licence fee has gone down by about 2 million. Now, it may well be that a lot of those people genuinely are not watching any live broadcasting at all, and they are just sitting there on their Netflix and their Amazon or whatever accounts. But the BBC stepped up enforcement of the TV licence in a bid to tackle falling revenues. They've sent 46 million warning letters to households in the last year, at the same time having lost £1 billion through the licence fee evasion and cancellation. I'm not entirely sure those warning letters are really going to work, though, are they?
I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of them, Julie, if you've had the joy of being sent one, but they're actually really threatening. And the problem that we have with them, the BBC say, oh, well, you know, these work because we get more revenue in than what we spend. But they're threatening and they're bullying, and they don't make clear what it is that you can watch without a TV licence. You know, they're very opaque, and they sort of come in like a red reminder. So everyone's worried that, you know, they're going to get a CCJ, but they're not 100% sure on what they can watch. And that needs to be made clear to people, that if you're not watching live broadcast TV, and most people don't know what that is, even if it's not broadcast schedule, or BBC iPlayer, you don't need to pay for the TV licence.
But again, I think an awful lot of people just say, well, I just don't see why I should be forced to pay for this. I get to choose whether I've got an Amazon account or a Netflix account or Disney Plus or whatever else it is, or Sky Football. I don't see why I should be forced to pay for something I don't use and I don't like.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is the BBC isn't moving with the times, in that the TV licence will eventually come to an end, because young people just aren't getting TV licences because they don't watch TV in that way. They completely on demand or catch up, even if it's just YouTube or whatever, and therefore they don't need a TV licence. So the BBC has to move with that.
Yeah, well, good luck to them for that. I have to say, when we first started chatting about this many years ago, we started defund the BBC, I was very much like, no, I still think there's a role for them. I'm increasingly on your side on this one. You've run me round. Rebecca Ryan, they've lost me round. Rebecca Ryan, Campaign Director at Defund the BBC, thank you for that. 11:50 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about the small matter of war in Iran. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. 11:53 is the time. I've left far too little time to talk to my next guest. Former British Army Colonel Hamish de Bretton Gordon, OBE, joins us. Good morning to you, sir. Let's get straight to it. We've got the Strait of Hormuz still closed. We've got cost of living crisis from many parts of the world, not just first world, lots of poorer countries as well. We've got Donald Trump saying, I might leave Iran. I might leave the conflict even if the strait is still closed or not. We've got the First Sea Lord saying we don't have the ability to actually fight a war, and we've got the Prime Minister saying we're staying out of it. What does that tell us, and where are we?
Well, hi, Julia. Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? With President Trump suggesting he's going to pull out of NATO because NATO has not been helping him in Iran. And the Strait of Hormuz still shut, as you said. I understand even in the United States, people are paying over $4 a gallon for their fuel, and it's beginning to, hack them off as well. And it seems that we're sort of not in a position to help in any way. But I think, the real issue is, and perhaps Trump's going to address it in his address to the nation tonight, if he doesn't sort out the Straits of Hormuz, the Chinese are licking their lips and ready to get stuck in there. They're the ones who get the majority of the oil through the Straits. And if they're going to pay less for it in the future and run the place, actually, Trump might well need NATO. He has said that China are the biggest threat to the United States. So it's, I, as a NATO person, realise that Iran is not a NATO fight. But
no, it's like there's no requirement for NATO members to step in the same way, actually, under the Falklands, things like that. It doesn't apply.
Entirely. Some NATO countries might want to support, as we did to oust Saddam Hussein from Kuwait in '91 and also in 2003. But it seems in Congress to blame it all. I accept that Trump might be getting into a blame game now with his turning towards his primaries in November. But really, it's NATO is focused on Ukraine and Russia at the moment.
And he has said, hasn't he, Ukraine is a European problem, you deal with it. Well, then Iran is his problem. The trouble is the closing of the Strait of Hormuz is very much a problem for Europe and not a problem for America, and a problem also for many other countries. Although other countries, India, Pakistan, China, they're negotiating to be able to get their tankers out. They're going to get the oil. We don't. Realistically, look, they could take the American Marines, they could take the Karg Island, controlling the Iranian oil coming out. But realistically, holding Karg Island is a very different matter, isn't it, in terms of the risk of bombardment by the Iranians, the risk of huge number of body bags of American soldiers going back to America. That's not going to be acceptable to the American public, certainly not with those midterm elections in November. What do you think is most likely to happen next, given that what Donald Trump says one day or 1 hour could be superseded by the thing he says next?
Well, you're bang on, Julia. Absolutely. What he says tonight and tomorrow might be completely different. And the price of oil does affect America, although they produce their own. I think he would be incredibly unwise to put boots on the ground in Iran to either do the Straits of Hormuz or to Karg Island. And at the end of the day, although he has a lot of force, he only has 182nd Air Division, one Marine force that could be really tied up for very long. I think hopefully, he says that he has written down Iran's military. He says he's destroyed their ability to make nuclear weapons. Then, he seems to have achieved a lot of his objectives. But he
said that last year. He said he'd sorted out their ability to make nuclear weapons last year.
Well, entirely. But and he's even bombed some of their chemical weapons sites in the last 24 hours. But I think for the global economy, the key thing is still the Straits of Hormuz. And let's hope that he has a plan, or his negotiations that he says are going on will deliver that. Because, as I said at the very beginning, China seems to be the one who is going to gain most from this. And they seem to be the biggest threat to the US if you believe what Trump has been saying.
And indeed allowing a Russian oil tanker to dock in Cuba, who've been really suffering from shortages because they used to get their oil from Venezuela. And he talked about this embargo on Cuba and also about, obviously, all these big sanctions on Russia. There's no point us increasing our sanctions on Russia if they're allowed to sell their oil and their gas to other countries.
Well, that's right. And of course, you know, with Russia now getting $150 a barrel for its oil rather than $50 a barrel, those coffers are being strengthened and filled up again. And I think hopefully Trump's advisors are telling him, you know, Venezuela was a great thing that he did there and all the rest of it. But Iran is very, very different. Yeah. And although we have got regime change, we've now got the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, who are a really nasty bunch of people.
And very well armed and very ideological.
Yeah, I'm afraid they are, and they're the ones who need to be controlled. So I don't think it's all lost yet, and I don't think necessarily Trump is going to withdraw from NATO, but we need to ride this one. And as you absolutely rightly say, Julia, you know, our own military needs to be properly resourced so that we can, you know, do more and do better in future.
Yeah, absolutely. God, covered a lot of ground there. Hey, Richard Breton Gordon, OBE, former British Army Cop, thank you very much. I'm going to bring Claire Pearson on more detail on that coming up in just a few moments. But also, after the top of the hour, going to be talking to the wonderful Maggie Oliver, former detective, constable of the Greater Manchester Police. She's the big Rochdale grooming gang scandal whistleblower. Talk to her about that announcement of those grooming gangs, terms of reference for the inquiry we had yesterday. First chance to talk to her. She's up next. Don't miss it. This is Talk. Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return. To the people from whence I came.
Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegation of this $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good afternoon to you. This Talk, the home of common sense, with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. The time is 2 minutes past midday, and it's recess, parliamentary recess. Maybe you're on your Easter holes yourself, listening at home or on your holidays, avoiding the kids. Well played. But PMQs is not on this week, or indeed next week. But Claire Pearson, former Conservative Government advisor, who's normally here to comment on PMQs. You love your PMQs, don't you? You're gutted. Yeah. I mean, we're all quite relieved. I mean, people asking questions the Prime Minister doesn't answer. I'm it's not Prime Minister's answers, is it? Let's be honest. I don't think we're missing out on much. We got a press conference from him instead, where he also said pretty much nothing. But anyway, whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio or your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, great to have your company as well. A question I've been asking you today, asking you before and in the wake of that press conference from Number 10, where Keir Starmer did his whole shtick, where he does this whole like, oh, I'm very much a statesman-like leader, where he talks about the clear and calm leadership. He's patting himself on the back. Basically having not really made a decision about anything. And it was supposed to be a press conference all about cost of living and the help we're giving. There really was nothing new. There was nothing there. A whole press conference in which he pretty much said nothing, although he did insist we're ahead of the game on the cost of living, which is actually the opposite of what the OECD and the IMF and anyone who knows anything has got an abacus that's working, unlike Rachel Reeves, his Chancellor, has said, when it comes to us being one of the worst countries affected, if not the worst in the Western world, of the biggest economies, because we are so reliant on imported oil and gas. Because we are so reliant, as he says we should do more of, on having more homegrown renewables. So I'm asking you, what help, if any, crucial there, if any, should Keir Starmer give Brits amid rising prices due to the war in Iran? We're told there's going to be help for those on benefits, but, what about people on lowest income who are going out to work? What about them? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000, text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV, calls to charge the national rate and text cost $1, standard network rate message. Claire, come back to that just very briefly. And then I want to talk to you about the war, because these things are obviously, very much the same thing. In a couple of moments, we're going to be talking to the Rochdale whistleblower Maggie Oliver about the grooming gang inquiry. We had all those details about that yesterday morning. But we didn't hear anything of any. There was no substance in anything that Keir Starmer said. This will not become as a surprise to Keir Starmer watchers. But is there anything to be encouraged by? No. That sound. No, we didn't need any more. That sound was enough.
And I'm trying to be fair, and I was trying to look for a positive that came out of it, and there just isn't one. I don't see the point of holding a press conference if you have absolutely nothing to announce. It doesn't make anybody feel any better. It provides no information, and it's just a monumental waste of time.
I think he was just jealous after those COVID-era daily press conferences we had. Like Nicola Sturgeon getting on the app with hers as well. Just like, you've got flags behind you, there's boards, wood panelling. You just look very prime ministerial and statesmanlike. But of course, he doesn't speak that way. So, talk about... You don't get to talk about clear and calm leadership. We get to think that if it is happening. If you have to tell us that's what you're doing, you're probably not doing it, sir. But in terms of whether we should be calm right now, we're told don't panic buy, carry on as usual, drive your car as usual. What? As if people haven't really got any choice. South Korea, other countries, they are actually saying to people, drive less. The Australian Prime Minister has told people this morning that they should be using public transport. Sorry, has Albanese been to Australia? No, I'm sorry. What public transport for large parts of the country? People use their cars because they need to use their cars. They buy food because they need to buy food. People are already tightening their belts. We're not ahead of the game when it comes to that issue. And do you think that things are going to get a lot worse? Because we've got they're talking about Ryanair's Michael O'Leary talking about we're going to be if the war carries on, we're going to be down on 20% of jet fuel. Diesel prices are going sky high. Filling up a car now, your average family car over £100. Mm-hmm. I fill up my car about once every 2 or 3 months, if that, because we don't drive. We're lucky we've got public transport. You fill up your car, you live in the countryside, once a week. People who work use their vehicles for work, which is, to or from work or at work. 80% of people in this country fill up once a week. It's a huge sum of extra money.
And this is it. The general public aren't stupid. Just because the Prime Minister says, there's nothing to worry about, we're all fine. I think people understand. They watch the news, they read the news, they can see in their own supermarkets that the prices have gone up. They go to the petrol station, that's increased. They know what they pay for their council tax and their gas and electricity bills. People know that there is a problem, and the longer the war goes on, the more risk there is to public finances. So I would rather the Prime Minister just said, you know what, we may have to put some measures in. These are what it's going to be, but only if this situation happens, because then people would actually take it more seriously.
But the point is, we have no control over this. We have no influence on America. We have no influence on the Iranians. No. We're not playing this key role, he says, in time to reopen the Straits of Hormuz or pushing for de-escalation. And if the Americans pull out and they leave the strait closed and they just start charging millions for each tanker to go through, or only to their mates, we are going to be in trouble. But the Prime Minister's solution so far as I can tell, is announcing a summit with EU partners. We're basically about it's closer allyship with our partners in the EU. Brilliant. Brilliant. What we're going to use their oil and gas, are we? Because they need it as well.
Well, exactly.
They're importing it from the. They're the ones who. Germany's in just as much of a mess in terms of their green renewable nonsense. Absolutely petrifying. I mean, sorry, if we're going to stick with one ally, sorry, whatever Trump's idiosyncrasies, you stick with America every time.
Well, of course you do. But this is what the Prime Minister has always wanted. This is where he's most happy, is talking to his European counterparts. He wants to be part of that club once again, even though the British public said no.
Exactly. Just some breaking news regarding that Golders Green ambulance firebomb attack. 3 more people have been arrested in relation to that attack. People have been arrested and bailed previously. Got no more detail on that. If I get any more, I'll bring it to you first here. Right now, let's talk about the extraordinary announcement we had yesterday about finally getting some detail on this grooming gang inquiry. January last year, remember, the Prime Minister said anyone wanted a national public inquiry into the grooming gang scandal was simply jumping onto a far-right bandwagon. Then he jumped onto that far-right bandwagon in June last year when he agreed that, yes, there would be one. And then it took until December before we actually had the announcement of the person who was actually going to be chairing that inquiry, Baroness Anne Longfield, a former Children's Commissioner. Didn't please everybody, certainly not of all the survivors, but it's a good start, isn't it? And yesterday, finally, we got the terms of reference for that inquiry, how long it would last, what it would do, and what it would actually look into. Well, let's talk about this right now with Maggie Oliver. She's a former detective constable with Greater Manchester Police. She's also the whistleblower on the Rochdale grooming gang scandal and still runs a charity now today helping victims and survivors of that abuse. A very good afternoon to you, Maggie.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you so much for talking to us. We spoke to one of the many victims again who's speaking out about this, Sammy Woodhouse, on the show yesterday. Numerous calls from of family members of those who had been victimised in these gang rapes. The scale of it is just terrifying. You've been absolutely instrumental all these years. I'm speaking to you, 15 years about this now on various different radio shows. When you heard the terms of that grooming gang inquiry in terms of it's going to look into the police, social services, local councils, it's going to be 3 years. They're going to publish along the way. There are going to be individual local investigations as well, and not shying away from the stuff that that has been ignored until this point, in terms of looking at the ethnicity, religion, culture of those who were committing the abuse and those who were being abused. Were you reassured that this inquiry might actually achieve something?
I've met Anne Longfield and her panel I think 3 times now, and we took over 24 survivors to meet with her in February. So I think that the final terms of reference, that there are many improvements in it from the draft terms of reference, but there are still things that I'm concerned about. The use of language, really, we're still talking about sanitized, really. We're talking here not about exploitation. We're talking about rape, about torture, about degradation. And if we, when we had the meeting with Anne Longfield and all the survivors, they were adamant that they wanted this referring to not as a grooming gang inquiry, but as a rape gang inquiry. So that hasn't been listened to, and it should be.
But can I just stop you there? Because I've spoken to numerous survivors. And look, you're the expert on this. I don't claim anything different. But I've spoken to survivors who said they want the grooming term because this is about this sort of the modus operandi of these gangs. And they want that. And so when we're not sort of downplaying it by saying grooming gangs, and that's not saying rape gangs, and that's a preference. But you're saying actually the survivors you represent want us to say rape gangs.
Absolutely, and Anne Longfield and her panel can be on no misconception that was demanded. Okay. I think that the reference to ethnicity, culture, and religion is really important, and that is reflected. The terminology around accountability I find really concerning, because we're talking about poor practice in this report.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for me, this isn't poor practice. This is gross criminal neglect of duty.
Are you talking about police officers and social workers? Yeah, that's not poor practice. That's abject negation of their duties.
Yeah, but the terms of reference are talking about poor practice, that they'll identify it where they see it. Yeah. For me, it's about accountability. I would argue that every single person who has survived the gangs and the rape and the torture are more rattled and troubled and traumatized by the lack of care and action by the authorities. So there is no reference in this about senior public officials being held to account.
Yeah.
That is not referenced. They're not talking about examining the charging decisions of the CPS. You know, a man who got a 13-year-old pregnant and we had a fetus is out of prison in 3 years because he was only charged with conspiracy to commit sexual activity with a child.
There's a baby. It was clearly statutory rape. End of. Nothing to discuss.
Yeah, so I'm, you know, I do think that the panel want to do a good job. I don't, you know, I'm not dismissing their intentions. I don't believe the government want this inquiry. No. I think if you think about when I came in the other week, Julia, you know, we're taking the government to a judicial review for not implementing the recommendations of a 7-year inquiry. And there is nothing in these new terms of reference to say how long it will take before they implement.
And we have this, don't we? Lessons will be learned. I was encouraged that we're looking at 3 years and reports being published as we go, not waiting, not open-ended. I was encouraged that it went all the way back 30 years, not just back to 2000, that longer period. Of course, anything historic involves, much more difficult to get to, the files. We know there's been a big concern about all this length of time, allowing councils effectively and police to sort of destroy evidence. Who are we kidding? We know that will have been happening. Absolutely. I don't have a shadow of a doubt about that. But the key thing about this is, look, we already know it was happening. We are getting more and more aware of the scale on which it was happening. Again, although you've still got people like the London Mayor said, kind of not happening in London. I've no doubt at all it's still happening right now, today as well. The key thing here is to get justice for those victims of the past, to get the girls who are currently being abused safe and stop future people being abused, but to make sure we get prosecution of every single one of these perpetrators, but also it's also prosecution of every single person who failed in their statutory duty to stop this, to prevent this, to help these girls, to stop these men. And I'm thinking we are talking about thousands and thousands of so-called, public officials and professionals who need to be held to account. Have you got any hope that that is going to happen?
No, I mean, even yesterday, the Home Secretary is still insisting that this is about historic failures. My work every day in the charity, we are dealing with victims who are being failed today, who are still being treated abominably by the authorities. I think there's a great awareness now, but there are, in the charity, we are absolutely going to support this inquiry, and we will do everything we can to make sure that every survivor is not isolated, is not alone. We're trying to make sure they've got legal representation around them, but there is nothing in this either about legal funding for survivors. And I was involved in ICSA originally, and, they paraded out a whole series of senior police and social workers who had proper representation. Victims were trampled all over. So,
the victims were barely even heard from, certainly in terms of the grooming gangs in that inquiry. But I thought what was so interesting was when we had the Prime Minister finally giving in to public pressure last year and agreeing to there being this sort of rapid review by Baroness Louise Casey. I think you met with her, didn't you? And you brought in some of the survivors. And it was that point that she went, wow, I had no idea in terms of scale. And again, you sort of think this is all over the internet, it's all over the news, people talk about this, there are interviews, you think everyone knows about it. People are still unbelievably unaware of quite how awful what happened to these girls, but also about how they were treated. I mean, Katie Lamb, the Tory shadow minister, she's done some wonderful work. I mean, reading out, a court transcript, transcript of just the horrible things that happened to these girls. Because you still got this thing, and you say you've obviously still got this attitude within the police social work, which is, oh, she's some 13-year-old tart. What can we do? And they genuinely have this attitude after all these years. How do we stop that?
I think it's about, I think the language is really important. And I think, we're never going to prosecute every abuser. We are never going to prosecute every public official who has turned away from these children. What I want to see is some high-profile people that are made an example of, in the same way maybe they made an example of Caroline Flack, for instance. That's what I want to see. But, you know, government officials, Home Office, Home Secretaries, the decisions on the ground in the police forces came from the top. And my fear, Julia, is that this is actually, we might have good people on the ground speaking to the victims, but the government at the end of the day are the ones that will choose whether or not to do anything with any implementation.
And we know we're looking at you know, taking evidence from this month up to 28, and then a final report in 29. Although sharing information with the NCA, the National Crime Agency, so they're actually looking, you know, possible prosecutions along the way. But we know these things take years and years and years. But we're looking at basically this being published. Who are we kidding? After the next general election, that will be the plan. What a surprise!
You know what? I've just got one other point that's really important, Julia. In that I'm always saying that the police complaints system is unfit for purpose, and these new terms of reference talk about Operation Beacon Port and the NCA looking at what's gone wrong. Now, for me, that's marking their own homework again. I've seen these things, the way they pan out, the way the IOPC really doesn't address the real issues at the top of these organisations. You might throw a couple of, you know, foot soldiers to the wind, but I want to see those who are the decision makers at the top held accountable, and that's what survivors and victims. That's the thing, isn't it?
We had a former police officer call up to the show yesterday, and one thing he said, you know, if I had a case. A girl's brought in, she's saying she's being sexually abused in this way. You know, I want to prosecute that case, and I would want to go back in and say, did the first officer who went along, did he make that decision not to prosecute? Did the staff sergeant? You go up the line, and at the point at which someone decided not to prosecute, what was your reasoning, right? And then you prosecute them, because we do need to get up to the very top. But it's you've got. And I think a lot of people feel, you know, let's have some faith. That's what Elon Musk, who publicised a lot of this around the time of January last year, and how we needed to tackle it. And you know, good for him on that. Put a lot of focus on the government. But I do just, you know, they were saying, oh, this sounds good. You're getting rid of non-crime hate incidents, and this is encouraging in terms of the grooming gang inquiry. Non-crime hate incidents are best being rebranded. That's not really happening, and they're not getting rid of all of them. And again, the grooming gang inquiry, as you say, you've got the establishment that allowed the cover up for so many years, even when it was on the front page of the Times. You know, they still did nothing for years. And it's not just Tory or Labour. It's, you know, local councils, it's government, it's senior police, senior social services. It's in no one who's in charge's interest for everything to come out. And when it's in no one who's in charge's interest, it doesn't come out.
No, and I think it is out. I think everybody knows. And I don't really think it's not knowing that is the problem. No, it's not doing anything. It's action. That's what I'm just saying. Action is what's needed, and change. You know, the failures of the past are done in a way. We need action now, accountability for those failures, and change for the future. And recommendations need to be brought into force. They can't sit on a shelf and do nothing. Otherwise, why are we going down this?
What's the point? There's 65 million quid for nothing. Just finally, just crucially, something that's been much debated over the last few years is the ethnicity and the religious aspect of this. And again, you'll get the people who say, this is just racism, this is, you know, is jumping on a far-right bandwagon, as the Prime Minister said. The vast majority of sex crimes against your children in this country are committed by, you know, white men. Well, because the vast majority of men in this country are white. Of course they are in a Western European state, well, for now. But actually, the key thing about this it's about whether or not these men, because of their cultural background, and views and religion or whatever, that they targeted white girls. Why did they target white girls? But also, why were they not prosecuted? And what was the reasoning? That is a crucial aspect of this, isn't it?
It's a really critical aspect, Julia, and you know, I think I know what that aspect is. I think we all do. But again, it's grasping it's culture, religion, ethnicity. The one of the other issues around that, yes, it mentions that in this the terms of reference, but what it doesn't say is that we need absolutely standardised data collection, mandatory data collection throughout the whole country,
identifying people
that speaks to each other. So if you've got an abuser in Manchester that takes a child to Yorkshire, the intelligence doesn't talk to each other. So there needs to be huge investment in systems that work. So you've got to look behind the words. And when you know the subject, you know that words are very easy. The devil is in the detail. What are they going to with the recommendations, and where will we go? We will help. I hope for the best. Always expect the worst.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now, and then we'll see. We'll be getting you on regularly throughout to check that they are on track and holding them to account where we can, just as you've done. Just magnificent work you've always done. Maggie Oliver, former Detective Constable at Greater Manchester Police, whistleblower at the Rochdale grooming gang scandal. Claire Pissell, this was obviously breaking news yesterday, just before the show. Discussed this a lot on the show yesterday, but Maggie wasn't available. I really wanted to get perspective because she knows this inside out. What did you make of it all?
I think that's really interesting what Maggie was saying about it's the accountability and the systems not matching up. So you could have an abuser moving a child from one area to another and nobody would know about it. I mean, why in this day and age can that be allowed to happen? But
it is embarrassing that our public services don't. They're still basically dealing on pen and paper. I don't know why they're not just writing things on a chalkboard sometimes.
Yeah, they probably put a post-it note and then it falls down and people forget about it.
But we
it's
laugh
the
about it,
accountability that needs.
Do you have any faith? Look, a lot of this Labour government doesn't want to do this because you've got a lot of Labour councils who were basically in charge at the time. Everyone, chief constables and Labour council leaders and Tory council leaders, everyone's big mates. They all go to the same events. They all know each other. You rub my buck, I rub yours. It's in no one's interest for this to come out. Kept quiet about it all. But then, we had Tory governments from 2010. This was all exposed. Did nothing about it.
No, and I think governments, it doesn't matter what colour, it just needs to be told. And I think that this government has been forced into a position where it cannot say that it won't investigate now, and it has to have.
But we're not going to get the proper results until afterwards.
Of course,
depends who's in charge, whether any action is actually taken. Always your calls welcome on that as well. 0344 499 1000. We'll get to your calls in just a couple of moments. A lot of you wanted to call in about the cost of living, that Keir Starmer speech that is really not very much at all. That's up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:28 is the time. Coming up, we're going to be talking about this extraordinary gangs of youths basically rioting, causing chaos in Clapham in South London over the last 2 nights. And well, I don't know where the local Labour MP is, but she hasn't even bothered commenting on it. But absolute chaos. Shoppers having to be locked in stores because of the mayhem being caused. We'll talk about that with Mike Neville, former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector. First up, let's get to your calls. Tarquin's on the line in London. Tarquin, you want to talk about the Keir Starmer speech this morning. I mean, I'm surprised you found something to talk about it, because I couldn't find much in it.
Absolutely. Well, I was listening to it live as you were this morning, and I think what I tried to pick out of that nothing burger of a sort of a semi-speech was the fact that he was pleading. It was like there was an implicit, covert plea to his 3 main constituents. That was my analysis. The first one was when he went, "We're not involved in this war." That covert code. Please, Muslims, vote for me in May. That's the one.
You think it's that clear? Yeah. It's just basically reminder: don't vote Green. That we're not doing this too. And he said we will not be drawn into the conflict. He said
that's right. And the second constituency, when he went £100 for all you plebs brackets, 300 quid minus, it's going to be net deficit with a closed bracket.
You're talking about the fuel. You're talking about the energy bills there, often. Yeah.
Exactly. Those are the remaining. What's left of old Labour voters are still too dumb to still want to vote for Labour. And thirdly, Julia, was this final bit where he threw in the little silly bit thing at the end about the European aspect. That was to the Remoaners in the audience.
Yeah.
So, I'm still a Ramona people. So that's what I read out of it. It's just code for those. Please vote for me. Of course, he is still going to be trounced in 4 or 5 weeks. Is it when the May 11th election?
Yeah, May the 7th. Yeah, but that is what the polls are saying. We're in the election period, so we don't know yet. I haven't even got the candidates yet, but finalised. But this is the thing. You're saying this is just this was about local electioneering rather than a statement to the nation.
He doesn't have much of a he doesn't have any platform on which to talk, because like you said earlier, Mandy, he's got nothing to say for himself. He's a complete non-entity politically. He's got no friends left. It's the end of Fabianism, I hope. And I think basically he was his last-ditch to get up on the podium and be a complete non-entity, waste of space that he always has been.
I think you'll find that he was showing clear and calm leadership if you read the memo. I'm very disappointed in you, Tarquin, because that's what he told us. Anyway, Tarquin, thank you very much indeed. Very, very interesting. I mean, we are in electioneering period. I mean, we've got some crucial elections, and this is not about anything other than, let's face it, Keir Starmer fighting for his electoral life, even though, of course, it's not a Westminster election. Jason is on the line in Wiltshire. Hello, Jason, how are you?
Julia, you all right?
Very well, so nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and you, I just want to quickly ask you, how's the Shiner doing now after the skiing accident?
I don't know why I posted that black eye, because I was able to cover up with the professional makeup ladies here. All gone. However, I do still have the knee injury.
Oh dear.
I'm hobbling around and getting no sympathy from anyone here, by the way. But anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, me and my missus, we ski, but I've fallen off of button lifts. I've fallen off of...
No, I know the embarrassing thing...
Face planted, but never walked into a door.
No, I can honestly tell you, what I was skiing, I actually had a fall. I didn't hurt. I didn't get a black eye from a ski fall or even a drunken night out. It was so cold sober and hitting a door. I know, I'm an idiot. But anyway, Jason, what you want to talk about something important.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about our excellent Prime Minister's little speech. Doesn't it make you feel proud to have him as the leader of your country?
I'm feeling sarcasm. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously he keeps going on about this cost of living is their priority, etc., etc. But he seems to be avoiding to do anything to help with the cost of living. We're on heating oil where I am. I'm at 6.
Yeah.
I've just looked now. It has come down a little bit. It's £1.20 a litre plus VAT. So obviously it's still not. It needs to be capped, because as the time goes on, we get into winter. That's gonna go up.
Well, we're waiting to see. Of course, everyone's just basically got their fingers crossed that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened by hook or by crook.
I am as well. I've got everything crossed. But it's just. I mean, what they're doing is typical Labour. It's just take. That's all they've ever done. Every time they've come into power. I mean. It's with the fuel. He could do like whatever, like his little buddies in Europe are doing, which he hasn't mentioned, is they've reduced their duties, they reduced VAT. He's not going to do any of that, and I don't think they will. And I think what we're going to get is that stupid idiot Rachel in accounts who sort of well, she hasn't got a bloody clue, has she? But she's going to stand there and say, we've managed to freeze fuel duty. I reckon that's what she's going to say. And that's going to be her little... Yes, we've done something. Do you know what I mean?
And they haven't done a single thing. And again, this talk about if they do give help, it'll be people on benefits. But what about people who just above that, who actually go out to work every day? And also on energy costs and fuel costs. If they cut the tax for everybody, that helps the whole economy.
Well, yeah, I mean, the benefit thing, that made me laugh this morning. I was watching another news outlet, others are available. Now, it was only because I was flicking through. Anyway, it was a positive thing that benefits have gone up to 6.3%.
Yeah.
It was a big green tick, and I said to my missus, I said, all right, I said, look at your pay rise then, love. I said, you ain't had one, have you?
Yeah, but this is the thing. The coverage, the BBC, Sky TV, everything, these things are always covered on that basis. And they're the ones who cover the things like the free school meals and the free this and the free that, none of which is free, all of which is paid for by our taxes. And that, I say there should actually be an actual rule. I think it was Tom Harwood who said this, and I totally agree with him. There should actually be a requirement that no government minister is allowed to use that term, tax, but not even government funded. Government hasn't got any money, taxpayer funded. Jason, thank you for that call, appreciate it. 12:33 is the time. Now, we are giving you the chance to win a life-changing £20,000, completely tax-free. Something's got to be here on Talk. That's £20,000 straight into your bank account. You can spend it, you can save it, you can splash it, you can give it to me if you want. It's entirely up to you. Here's how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 9th of April 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Well, very good luck with that. Let's go to a break. Up next, chaos in Clapham. What on earth is going on? This is the Talk Show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon to you. 12:37 is the time. This is Talk. I'm Julia, and Claire Pistol's still with me. Mike Levels joining us now. He's the former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. Good afternoon to you, Mike.
Yes, hello, Julia.
Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was a police constable at Clapham and a detective inspector as well.
Well, that's very useful to know, because that's what I want to talk to you about, obviously, because we've had... I mean, this is extraordinary. I've been seeing this online and I'm checking, is this something made up? Is this real or not? Gangs of youths. When I say gangs, I mean a heck of a lot of young people running riot, running amok, causing chaos in Clapham, forcing branches of Sainsbury's, Boots and Marks and Spencer's to close in Clapham in South London. 2 arrests only made, dozens of offers sent to the scene. Those of you who are watching on our YouTube page, you will see, I mean, huge number of youngsters just running around, people tearing through shops, police having to be called, people having to be locked into shops for their own safety, these youngsters. A lot of them, to be fair, they're laughing, they're having a great time, but they're running around, terrorising local people, terrorising local shopkeepers, ransacking the shops. It's very interesting because the local Labour MP, Bel Ribeiro Addy, hasn't felt moved to say a single thing about any of this. Police being called, local people being quite terrified, shopkeepers being terrified. What on earth is going on? Who is behind this? And how on earth, after 2 days of this, can there only be 2 arrests?
Yeah, it's quite incredible, isn't it? Only 2 arrests. I mean, when I was at Clapham in 1989, I don't think this would have gone on with much more robust policing, and the station had its own rugby team, and I think it needs a little bit more of that now. You know, what you have here, though, you know, we've got to be honest about this. A lot of young black kids there, they need, you know, what is going on here?
OK, no, I say, now you mentioned the point. For those who've not seen the video, it does seem that the vast majority of children, they are black. Is that relevant? I mean, I don't care whether it's a white kid or a black kid running amok in the supermarket.
It is relevant, Julie, because the police have been hamstrung. Young police officers now are trying their best, but they're constantly under the fear of being accused of racism. Not only that, you've got a lot of inexperienced officers. When I was on that 1989 police shift, there were PCs on the relief who had 20 and 25 years service. Yeah. Most of the officers responding to this will have 2 and 3. So you can blame successive Tory and Labour governments. Labour for inflicting all this racism on the, accusations of racism on the police. The Tories for reducing numbers and then getting rid of a load of experience. So you're saying the police
are wary to act because they think, oh God, if we come down heavy-handed, we're going to get an accusation. I'm going to be suspended for 6 months, and then God knows what. Yeah. But this is the thing. I'm wondering if these kids were all white, or I don't know, a few Union Jacks among them, I've got a funny feeling the police would have had no problem going in.
Yeah, that's the problem all the time, Julia. And it says, what this says, the lawlessness sends a message to people that, the police have lost the grip and the trust and confidence in policing is already at a low level. But just to give you an example, I used to be on the crime squad at Clapham. We used to be given these sort of double-sized truncheons. And I remember a gang of youths, literally like the ones you can see on here, running into a shop. And we ran after them with these truncheons and they all ran out the back. And the shopkeeper said to me, Allah has sent you. But that was a different style of policing. Well,
that's it. But these kids, looking at the videos, a lot of them, you're going to hear the videos, they're laughing. These kids are laughing. They think it's an absolute hoot, and they're pushing it. And the coppers are very quietly saying, "Can you leave the store? Leave the store." And that's the end of the matter. I'm like, I don't want them to leave the store. I want you to arrest them all one by one.
Yeah, that's right. This is a riot or violent disorder. There's several offences that people could be arrested for here. Looting. You've got all this video now. What are the police doing? I mean, my expertise in the police, of course, was identifying people by images. So these sort of images here are my bread and butter. But what you've seen, you're right, Julie, it's almost like get them out of the shop and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the end of it.
And that's a free pass, isn't it? Oh, didn't we have a great fun? I bet a lot of these kids have got their phones out as well. I bet they're all, wasn't that great fun? And this is the thing, they think it's great fun. They've terrified the life out of other people. They've caused probably an awful lot of damage, stolen stuff. We know in all of these scenarios, we've seen in any sort of right, it's amazing how much stuff gets looted in the name of some sort of, race crime or something. I mean, look, it is an area. It's interesting. Some of the copy of articles about this, talking about this being a well-to-do area. Look, there's some, multi-million-pound houses in parts of Clapham. There's different parts of Clapham, but there's actually also there's actually some very, very poor areas. Is this just a bunch of youths who haven't got much to do during the Easter holidays, having a bit of a laugh? And again, if the weather's nice, they go out. And as we know, in July when there might be riots, oh, thank God, rain, we don't get riots. But if there's some nice weather, then we're all out. Word goes round on TikTok or whatever the kids are using these days, this will be a laugh. But this is going to spread like wildfire if you only have 2 arrests, and let's face it, charges will probably never even happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It sends out the total wrong message, one, to the offenders who are doing this, and secondly, to the law-abiding public who just want to go down the high street and buy their shopping. It needs robust action, and then it would put a stop to it, because all it's doing at the moment is encouraging it, because all those videos are going to be uploaded onto TikTok and other social media, and then other kids are going to think. And what happens is that nice kids as well get sucked into this, and it ends up in what they're doing is the police will end up prosecuting people who are easy to catch because they're nice kids, and the troublemakers, the one who really organise this, they'll get away with it. But what you need, Julia, we need a police force which isn't afraid of being called racist. People accept who's committed crime. The police can't help who commits crime. They can only respond to it and deal with it. Yeah. But we need to be honest and open about the issues and deal with the problems. At the moment, that is not happening.
I'd love to know where the parents were. Okay, that time they're at work. They're frankly at home like normal people, having a drink, watching Netflix. But is Dad around? Do they know what's going on? Have they checked? Have they said, "Oi, were you at the local stores when that was happening? Show me your phone. I want to see where you've been." And they're like, I mean, are they taking responsibility? Because I tell you what, Claire's here. She's got a teenage lad. I've got gone to uni now, daughter. If I found out, or you found out, our kids were involved in that, you'd be hoping the police find you first.
Yeah, absolutely, Julia. I've been involved in youth work for most of my life, and I know there's so many opportunities for those young people in that area, in the Scouts, and there'll be projects on with all sorts of activities, swimming and sports clubs, cadet units, and all sorts of different things that they could be spending their time better on. So you hear a lot of this, there's no youth clubs.
Rubbish.
A lot of that is
I never went to a youth club
nonsense.
once in my life.
Well, I spoke to a professor, and he said all they do is give a place for these people to meet. They give a place for the gangs to meet. They're not, unless it's organised like a football or a rugby club or something like that, where you're learning something useful. That's what they need. That's what's needed. But the police response here is woeful, and there needs to be some arrests made.
Absolutely. Mike Neville, former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector, used to work down there at Clapham. Nick as well. Claire Pearce. I mean, the footage. Okay, we're not seeing people. They're not. Killing people. They're not. I mean, let's get it in perspective. But young people behaving like that, and it's all on social media, and it's all on the media, and very little happens as a result, and the police just stand there and go, come on. That's not good enough. And we're told, aren't we, by the Prime Minister during the Southport riot, you have to come down hard on these things. Well, go on then. Go on then. Come down hard.
Because when they can get away with crimes like that and that behaviour, then what is it going to lead on to? Because there will be some of those that will be emboldened to go on and break into somebody's house, smash a car, nick a car. It escalates from that point. But as you say, what are the parents doing? Because there's been enough footage of these riots. If I clocked my child, I mean, God help him.
I don't think we're allowed to say legally what we would do.
We're not.
But that's probably why our kids wouldn't be involved in that.
Precisely.
I'm going to guess, I'm going out on a limb here, but I don't think I'll be wrong, that the majority of those kids don't have a dad in the house. That is statistically the case. Don't have a dad in the house.
But then mum needs to step up and be
well, mum's already working 3 jobs and trying to, that...
I had to do it. I had to be mum and dad. And it's really,
yours
really,
turned
really
out
tough.
all right.
He's had his moments.
I love the fact that there will be people going, again, if only. We had this with the Tottenham riots. We've had this. We had this over the London riots from 2011, and ever since. If only we had more youth clubs where kids could play table tennis.
It makes no difference.
No, I'm sorry. This is not the reason why kids are doing this stuff. It really isn't. It's because they can get away with it. It's called parenting, people. 12:46 is the time. We'll get the thoughts, actually, of Reform UK's London mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, about that, and indeed where we are in terms of channel migrants and, well, you name it, everything else going on as well. She's up next. That's Layla Cunningham. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 12:49 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearsall still with me. We're joined right now by Reform UK's mayoral candidate for London. Of course, those elections are not until, I think, 2028, aren't they? But Layla Cunningham is joining us right now. Good afternoon to you, Layla.
Hi, how are you?
Very well indeed. I just want to read you actually a statement from the Labour MP who covers the Clapham area, Clapham and Brixton Labour MP. This is Bill Ribeiro Addy. I was saying earlier before I went on air, there was no statement despite 2 days of mayhem in Clapham in these supermarkets with youngsters running amok. Only 2 arrests by the police. Some of the video footage we were showing, I'm really, really very worried. Nothing from this MP all this time, but an hour ago she did post, I'm very concerned by the recent scenes of unrest on Clapham High Street. This intimidating behaviour causes havoc for local residents and business alike. It's inexcusable. The police have informed me that we will see increased patrols in the area over the coming days. And she said she remains in touch with local Met officers and will have further discussions with the borough commander this afternoon. Ongoing patrols will continue for local reassurance and the like. Now, is that enough from an MP after, 2 days after 2 nights of disruption on our streets?
Absolutely not. This is not intimidating behaviour. This is crime. You know, this is 100 teenagers. They forced shops to close. They stole stuff. It was a public order offences. There was theft, and there were only 2 arrests for assault.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't just like minor antisocial behaviour, as she says it. Businesses are disrupted. You know, staff were put at risk. I'm sure stock was taken.
Customers had to be locked into stores for their own safety.
You know, I mean, there's public order offences there's criminal damage, there's theft, and now, you know, and they've only done 2 arrests, and that just shows you there is no deterrence. You know, I don't believe the police have the backing to do whatever it takes. And what does that teach the youth? It teaches them, you know, go do this, nothing will happen to you, and it just emboldens them to go do it over and over again. All they did was a dispersal order. Yeah. You know, that, by the way, is just crowd management. That's not law enforcement. Yeah. And okay, you'll disperse the crowd for 2 days, and what happens after that?
Well, this is the thing. The message seems to have gone out, and we're just wondering whether this carries on any further. And we saw what happened after Southport, right? So we were told police should come down hard, courts should come down hard. That's how you stop this. I'm really worried. You know, we're only in April. This happened at the end of March. You know, we've got a summer ahead. Cost of living going up. Worries about youth unemployment and the like. I mean, how much worse can it get?
Yeah, but I wouldn't even excuse that kind of behaviour. I wouldn't even. That was none of the causes what they did.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you know, this is some kind of like social media. And why not? It's teaching kids that organised lawlessness is completely fine. You can shut down a whole high street and walk away and nothing's going to happen to you.
Absolutely.
And it's really, this is basically how lawlessness thrives.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's also talk about, well, I mentioned the cost of living there, and it often uses an excuse in these ways, and as you say, very rarely is actually an excuse. But Keir Starmer gave us a press conference this morning. I struggled to stay awake for the first 10 minutes. I'm not going to lie, I usually do. He was telling me how clear and calm his leadership had been. He had a 5-point plan. I'm not entirely sure there was a plan, but he says he basically made it very clear what's happening in Iran is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. But he also talked about how closer allyship with our partners in the EU was part of the answer. Is he getting into sort of Tony Blair territory where his only solution to everything is going back into the EU?
For everything, you know, it's the solution for growth, it's the solution for reducing illegal migration, it's the solution for our energy crisis, it's the solution for the war. And, you know, the EU is a sinking ship. What this war shows is that energy is a geopolitical tool, and it's the countries that have their own energy and their storage that are going to come out on top. And EU has a massive energy deficit because they also pursued net zero policies.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. They're not really going to be the countries to help. Do you think that actually there is a plan in terms of dealing with the cost of living? We've had some announcements this week from your party about, you know, fuel duty. That's for holidays. You know, a lot of people are worried about even booking a holiday right now. But in terms of, you know, the prices we pay at the pumps, and we've seen, you know, filling up a car, your average family car now, petrol, diesel, you're looking going over £100 now, first time since 2022, and we had the Ukraine fuel crisis there. What should the government be doing? What should they be announcing in terms of help for people, if anything at all?
Well, I think they should remove VAT on fuel because, you know, they're basically getting a windfall from the increased prices in fuel. But I think taxes are so high right now. You know, people really, I speak to so many people and they feel they're working so hard and just not getting anywhere. I don't know about you, Julia, but every time I go and buy stuff at the supermarket, it's just more and more expensive.
I'm always shocked about the price of everything these days.
You know, like £100. I'm like, what the hell did I buy with £100?
Yeah.
I remember when £100 would be like, you know, like proper food.
But this is the thing. It's all very well. You take VAT off fuel, and again, that would help a lot of people. It actually would help the economy an awful lot. But that sum of money that goes into Treasury coffers, that needs to be replaced with something, or you're going to have cuts. What would be cut?
Well, how about we get people, you know, creating businesses and start fostering the private economy to pay for the public sector? That somehow is never part of the conversation. I speak to so many businesses that just can't take all the excessive regulation and taxation, and they're closing shop. Small businesses. You know, small businesses that I was in Bromley the other day, and a lady's had her shop for 34 years, and she says she might have to close it down now because of all the excessive employers' taxes that they've imposed on her. This is what's happening.
Yeah. Well, a lot of which is obviously we're going to be seeing more of in April the 6th, this next tax year, and of course we've also got the minimum wage and living wage going up as well. Again, great if you're on those wages.
By the way, if you're not working, you get a cost of living bonus. What about those that are working?
Okay, all right. In terms of the Prime Minister's handling of everything, the clear and calm leadership, he said is what he's shown. Is that true? Do you agree?
I don't think he's shown any leadership. You feel he's pulled, and whatever the EU says, he does. I didn't even understand what was the point of the announcement today. Did you? What did he announce?
We were struggling.
What was announced apart from the fact that I can't even pinpoint to one of his 5-point plan.
Let me talk to you about also something else. The BBC, obviously, lots of revelations coming out about the DJ Scott Mills, who got sacked earlier this week over revelations that he had been investigated by the Metropolitan Police some years ago over alleged sexual offences against an under 16-year-old boy. The BBC have just said in a statement that we're getting drips and drabs out from them, saying the BBC knew about a police investigation into DJ Scott Mills in 2017. He was being investigated 2017, 2018 about previous alleged offences, but obtained new information in the weeks prior to his sacking. And that is why he was sacked now. Do you think the BBC's explanation for his sacking adds up?
So they knew he was being investigated for sexual assault while he was still employed?
Yes.
I haven't followed this story, honestly, Julia, so I can't comment on it.
Do you trust the BBC is handling these sort of situations well?
No, of course not. I don't trust the BBC because the BBC has become a propaganda machine in some instances. I think there's very little trust in the BBC, sadly. When I was growing up, it was, you know, everyone trusted the BBC. It was where we got all our news, everything. It's a shame what's happening.
But not anymore. Well, look, I mean, let's also talk about something you and I have talked about many, many times, and that is in terms of migration. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has extended by a couple of months the deal that we've got, which was due to have ended by last night, to basically pay the French police to stand around on beaches, drinking, smoking gitanes, taking a 3-hour lunch break, to then not stop migrant boats. They claim they're stopping about a third of them. She wants it to be based on pay per result. They said not, but they'll be paying an extra £2 million on top of the basic fee to extend it by a couple of months while negotiations continue. Have we got a good deal?
I mean, we're a joke country. We are paying another country millions, and they're openly refusing to do what we asked. And our response is like, okay, we asked, you said no, we're just going to pay you anyway. I mean, what are we paying for? Payments aren't tied to results. So what's the pressure on France to actually stop the boats?
Do you think there's any hope that they will be stopped?
I think this deal as well. Fewer have been intercepted. Over 4,000 have already crossed this year, and there has been bad weather. I mean, that is what failure looks like. And listen, if this was anyone's private money, if this was a private deal, no, it wouldn't be signed. And the problem is the government needs to start treating public money like it was their own, because no one in the real world would ever sign a deal like this.
OK, covered a lot of ground there. Leila Cunningham, Reform UK's mayoral candidate for London. Of course, that's in a couple of years' time.